Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 45 False Prosperity. Monday night. The cafeteria was very lively. When Luo Yan and Xing walked in, the noisy cafeteria suddenly became quiet. Luo Yan walked through the cafeteria as if he didn't see anything. Xing had no expression on his face. One of them didn't care about being seen by everyone, and the other was very serious. When the two sat down in a corner of the cafeteria, the atmosphere began to recover. In another corner of the cafeteria, a pair of eyes looked at Luo Yan quietly. It turned out to be Yang Lekei, who wanted to buy credits from Luo Yan in the logistics department last night. "Brother Yang, isn't that Captain D?" A boy next to Yang Lekei whispered. "No wonder he dares to ignore you. It turns out he and Captain D are so close. I only heard about it before, and I didn't believe it. How could Captain D care about a surface savage? Now I believe it. Brother Yang, it's better for us to stay away from that guy." A fat man with acne on his face across the table said. "What's Captain D?" "Our brother Yang's dad is the director of the construction bureau. Why should brother Yang be afraid of a surface savage? Brother Yang, do you want to teach him a lesson? Just say the word and I will help you get it done." Yang Lekei said with disgust. "If you want to die, die far away, and don't splash your blood on me." The fat man was stunned. Yang Lekei picked up a piece of soft beef brisket with chopsticks and put it in his mouth. "Read more books when you have nothing to do. I have read at least 80 novels, and the protagonists of almost every one of them are of grassroots origin, fighting back against the will of heaven. For characters like me who have an official father above me, who are rich and handsome, I'm a complete experience pack. Sometimes I also serve as a resource pack or an equipment pack. Anyway, I'm here to give money to the protagonist. Don't you think that guy is just like a protagonist? As soon as he came to our academy, he killed Luo Beachin in less than a month. I can't afford to mess with such a ruthless person. I was just angry yesterday. It's okay to be angry, but your life is more important. Besides, I'm a delicate person with food and drink. Why should I fight with a savage? On the contrary, I need to observe him for a while." The two followers whispered. "What are you observing, Brother Yang?" Yang Lekei smiled. "Observe his potential. Anyway, I know what my qualifications are, and I'm just going to live a life of idleness and waiting to die. It won't accomplish anything big. But if our classmate Luo has potential, I can invest in him. In this way, if he becomes successful in the future, I will have someone to rely on. Isn't this 100 times better than fighting with him?" When the two followers heard this, they immediately flattered him, and Yang Lekei also shamelessly accepted it. On the other side of the cafeteria, Luo Yan spent 3 credits with some reluctance and ordered a table of dishes. Xing was not polite and buried his head in eating. Seeing this, Luo Yan, not to be outdone, also joined the ranks of sweeping up the food. The two did not say a word and concentrated on eating. After a while, the whole table of food was eaten up by the two. Xing then let out a sigh and said, "That's the taste. I haven't enjoyed a meal so much since I stopped teaching at the academy." He went on, "You killed Luo Beachin. Whether you like it or not, you have been involved in the struggle between the two major factions in the underground city. So there are some things I have to tell you. The underground city is divided into 2 factions because of their different attitudes towards the Behemoths. One is the conservatives, and Luo Xianai is the leader of the conservatives. Of course, there are more than one big figure in this faction, otherwise I would have overthrown him long ago. The other is the radicals, and this faction is mainly headed by me. Generally speaking, not many people support my ideas." Luo Yan sat up straight. "What are the ideas of the 2 factions?" "The conservatives, mainly big businessmen, entrepreneurs like Luo Xianai and most of the older officials. They believe that the underground city has been preserved for 3 years after the Behemoth disaster, which shows that it is safe here. They demanded the disbandment of the Surface Exploration Corps. They don't want us to continue exploring the surface and studying the Behemoths, so as not to attract the attention of the Behemoths and bring disaster to the underground city. Zeng said simply. Their idea has also won the support of the residents of the underground city. Zeng said lightly, I can understand everyone's thoughts. Just like in peacetime, who wants to fight, who wants to live a stable life, and protect their own family. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and said, but this is impossible. It's as stupid as an ostrich burying its head in the sand when it encounters danger. Zeng sighed softly, I think so too. Don't look at the prosperity of the underground city now. It seems that, as long as humans live in peace under the surface, they can live in peace forever. But such prosperity and peace are only 300 meters away from the Behemoths. Once a Behemoth discovers the underground city, the city will immediately face a catastrophe. He said in a deep voice, so I advocate actively launching surface exploration, regularly eliminating Behemoths, and recycling Jiuying and Behemoth materials, to study and enhance our combat effectiveness. My ultimate goal is to drive out the Behemoths, retake the surface, and take back our home. We should live in the sunshine, not hide in the ground in humiliation, and be rats for life. Zeng's powerful words made Luo Yan's heart surge. But he said nothing. He didn't express anything. After dinner, Zeng was leaving. Luo Yan sent him to the entrance of the college, and then said, Captain D, I want to inquire about something. Zeng turned around. Go ahead. Do you know the current situation of Behemoth City? Luo Yan asked nervously. Zeng glanced at him. Are there any relatives there? Luo Yan nodded. Zeng said, I'll ask someone, and tell you next time. After that, he left. Luo Yan took a deep breath. Then he returned to the dormitory, took a shower and practiced. The next day, during the break, the school radio suddenly sounded. First year students Luo Yan and Zeng Shan, please come to the principal's office. The radio sounded 3 times in a row. Luo Yan was a little confused. Zeng Shan was even more confused, not knowing how he was also called. After exchanging glances, the two left their seats and headed for the principal's office. A moment later, in the 2nd grade classroom of the academy, Yang Lixi was entangled with a girl. Ruohan, what do you think of this latest model, a customized mecha? I think it suits you very well in every aspect. The girl was tall and slender, standing bored by the window, and she looked even more graceful and elegant in the sunlight. She said without even looking at Yang Lixi, do you know how expensive a customized mecha is? Even my dad's company has to hold a meeting to study when purchasing a mecha. You make it sound so easy. Yang Lixi smiled and said, as long as Ruohan likes it, let alone a mecha, I can even pick the moon from the sky for you. At this time, footsteps were heard, and Yang Lixi's 2 followers came trotting over. The fat man with acne on his face shouted, Boss, Brother Yang, come here. Chapter 46 Combat Test. Yang Lixi was busy pestering his goddess. When he heard this, he immediately became impatient. What's the matter? Let's talk about it later. Can't you see I'm busy? The fat man whispered. It's about that classmate Luo Yan. What Luo Yan and Qian? I'm busy now. Seeing that Yang Lixi was about to lose his temper, the fat man and the other man were about to walk away. Unexpectedly, the girl standing at the window turned around. Luo Yan. The one on the school radio just now. What happened to him? Yang Lixi's attitude suddenly changed 180 degrees. That's right. What happened to him? Didn't you hear what Liu Ruohan said? Hurry up and tell me. The fat man muttered and then said, Zhang Heo and I just went to the principal's office to join in the fun. Guess what? The local security bureau sent a banner to 2 first-year students. It is said that they bravely prevented a disaster on the weekend. Therefore, the local security bureau specially made 2 banners to praise them. By the way, there are awards. The one named Zeng Shan was rewarded with 1000 work points, and Luo Yan is amazing, with a full 10,000 work points. Yang Lixi looked disdainful. It's just 10,000 work points. My monthly pocket money is more than this. The local security bureau is too stingy. The fat man and the boy named Zhang Heo didn't think so. They, the reserve mecha masters, enjoy the 4th level treatment. Even if they don't become formal mecha masters after graduation, as long as they are engaged in related work, they can get 3000 work points every month. But now, because they are students, they only get 1000 work points per month. Luo Yan took their awards for nearly 10 months in one go. Only rich kids like Yang Lixi are not jealous. Others are extremely jealous. Do what is right. Liu Ruahan's autumn water eyes flickered. It's really interesting. I don't know what they did to get the local conservation bureau to give them banners and rewards. Yang Lixi heard it and immediately patted his chest and said, Ruahan, if you are interested, I will go and ask about it immediately and give you the news at noon. He pulled up the two followers and walked out of the classroom. Walking, Yang Lixi gritted his teeth and said, something's wrong. What's wrong, boss? Yang Lixi said, the current development is wrong. The girl the villain likes becomes interested in the protagonist, which arouses the villain's murderous intention. In the end, the villain gives the protagonist an experience pack, and the girl he likes is taken into the protagonist's harem. I've seen this routine countless times. Now Ruahan is interested in that Luo guy. Isn't this development the same as in the novel? If I have murderous intentions next, snap, I'll be beheaded and dead. Zhang Hao and the other man twitched their lips and felt that Yang Lixi was getting into the role. Boss, are you still going to ask for this news? Ask. Yang Lixi said decisively. In addition, I will find a way to introduce some girls to Luo. As long as he has a lover. Our classmate Liu is so arrogant that he will not develop in this direction, even if he is interested in Luo. Zhang Hao and the others immediately gave a thumbs up. It's you, boss, who can come up with such a method. Of course. Yang Lixi looked proud. Soon, the news that Luo Yan and Zheng Shan received the reward from the Land Conservation Bureau spread throughout the college. Just as Luo Xianai guessed, this matter caused 1,000 waves. Some people envied, some people didn't think so, and some people were red-eyed. Especially those who thought they were good, but had always been unknown. They all thought that Luo Yan was lucky and just had good luck. Although they would not make trouble for Luo Yan immediately, the seeds of jealousy had been planted, and it only took time to blossom and bear fruit. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, a month passed. On this day, Luo Yan was practicing in the training hall. After using the spark agent, a large amount of Yuan force poured into his body and burned up, making the originally mottled Yuan force 3 points purer. Soon, the last tendon was tempered. But Luo Yan did not stop practicing the visualization technique. The effect of the spark agent was still there. Yuan force continued to pour in. Soon, Luo Yan felt a familiar sense of obstruction. It was as if there was an invisible barrier in his body that prevented the continued infusion of Yuan force. This was a sign of a breakthrough. Luo Yan worked hard and accepted all the Yuan force. Gradually, the Yuan force in his body rose. He began to hit the invisible barrier. Repeated like this. I don't know how long it took. Luo Yan suddenly shook all over and felt that the invisible barrier collapsed and the Yuan force drove straight in without any obstacles. At this time, the Yuan force around Luo Yan rose and vaguely formed the phantoms of stacked mountains. But the image was very blurry, as if shrouded in a mist. After a while, Luo Yan opened his eyes, feeling the surging Yuan Li in his body. His body felt more expanded, as if he had endless power. He glanced at the potion container on the ground and sighed in his heart. This spark agent was really useful. The speed of cultivation was much faster than he had imagined. It originally took about 70 days to temper all the tendons and break through the realm of the third level of the visualization technique. Unexpectedly, it only took 1 month to break through. The time was shortened by half. Of course, during this period, Luo Yan's credits were also used up very quickly. After a month, he now had less than 50 credits. He couldn't help but worry. With these remaining credits, he could only buy 6 bottles of spark agent, which could not support the cultivation of the 4th level of the elementary level. I'll go back and ask Teacher Wei if there is any way to earn credits. Luo Yan thought about what he had learned this month. He learned a new combat skill from Zheng and also learned 2 mysterious techniques, number 3 and number 5. In addition to the breakthrough in visualization just now, it was a great harvest. The next morning was supposed to be Xiaoshi's general knowledge class. However, it was Wei Fenghua who walked into the classroom. Luo Yan intuitively felt that something was going to happen. Wei Fenghua coughed twice as usual and said, everyone has studied in the academy for a while. Next, the academy has prepared a practical test for everyone. Those who achieve excellent results in the test will be awarded credits. Luo Yan was refreshed when he heard this. He was just worried about running out of credits. Here comes the opportunity. Wen Fenghua continued, this time we are going to hold a mecha actual combat. That is to say, you will drive mechs to participate in the test. However, there are limited mechs. Only a few of you can get mechs. Therefore, you must compete for the right to use mechs. Students who cannot get the right to use mechs for the time being don't need to be discouraged. You will be assigned to the tactical group or the logistics department. Mecha combat is never a matter for one person. However, since this actual combat is jointly participated by the first and second grades, so for the right to use mechs, you need to compete with the second graders. Chapter 47 Opportunity. Competing with second year students for mecha? In the classroom, an 18 or 19-year-old male youth stood up and protested, "Teacher, this is too unfair. The second year students are so much ahead of us in terms of curriculum. Which of their yuanli, combat skills, and mystical arts is not better than ours? Are we going to compete with them?" The young man had a scar about 10 centimeters long on the right side of his face, which made him look a little fierce. Luo Yan was a loner in the class, occasionally chatting with Zheng Shan and Li Bohang. He had almost no interactions with his classmates. But after more than 2 months, he basically remembered the names of his classmates. Like this young man now, his name is Lin Cheng, and his Shenzang is super body, iron clothes, and his fighting style is very brave. Then another female classmate complained, "That's right, we will be treated like persimmons when the time comes." This female classmate wore a pair of glasses with thick lenses. Luo Yan remembered that her name was Lizzie, and she usually talked a lot. As long as she was given the opportunity to talk, she basically never stopped. Led by these two classmates, many students protested. Wen Fenghua was unmoved. He waited until the students had expressed their emotions, then he reached out and pressed down, signaling silence. After the classroom was quiet again, Wen Fenghua said, "The academy has also considered this issue. Therefore, during the competition, the second year students will be asked to keep their yuanli level at the second level of the primary level. If you can't reach the second level of the primary level now, then don't complain. What you should do is reflect on yourself. In addition, second year students will not be allowed to use mystical arts above level 10. There will be no restrictions on the rest. I know this is still not fair to you. But, on the battlefield, can you ask your enemies to fight fairly? And the second year students have also gone through this. It's the same for every class. If anyone feels that they can't do it, they can also abstain, but this will be recorded in your files." The students fell silent. No more opinions. No one dared to raise any opinions. Abstentions will be recorded in the files. Even if they graduate, they can't become mecha masters. If they don't even dare to participate in a slightly unfair competition, how can they be expected to fight on the surface? The matter was settled. Wen Fenghua coughed twice and continued, "There are 120 freshmen and sophomores in total. The school will provide 12 mechs, all of which are primary models. At that time, we will draw lots through the computer, and 10 people will compete for one mecha. Students who successfully qualify and get mechs will be awarded 100 credits each. Students who perform well in the actual combat test can keep the mecha, which means that even if you graduate, this mecha will belong to you. Of course, you have to figure out the maintenance and upgrade costs of the mecha yourself. The school will give a certain subsidy according to the situation, but it will not be paid in full. You don't have to worry too much. Once you get a mecha, some people outside will fight to sponsor you. So basically, as long as you can keep your own mecha, at least the maintenance costs will be covered. The upgrades will depend on your luck." This is another bombshell. Qualifying the competition, getting a mecha, and being awarded 100 credits is fine. But no one expected it. If you perform well in the actual combat test, you can keep the mecha you have obtained. Heio's figure flashed through Luo Yan's mind. His Black Thunder should also be obtained in a similar test. In this case, there will be at least one such opportunity in the first and second grades. There may be no more opportunities when you are promoted to the third grade. If you cannot obtain a mecha in the first 2 years, it means that your ability is limited. At that time, the students who have not obtained a mechs will basically have what kind of work they will do in the future. The college should not give them another chance. In other words, for those sophomores, this may be their last chance in the college. At that time, the sophomores will definitely fight hard. After all, if they don't fight hard, they will have no chance. When Feng explained some of the rules and requirements of the competition, and the morning passed like this. After lunch, Luo Yan went straight to the logistics department. The competition will start tomorrow. 2 groups per day, divided into 6 days. The results of the computer lottery will be announced tomorrow. After the competition, there will be 3 days of personnel adjustments, and then set off on the 10th day. Go to the surface for actual combat tests. Time is running out. Luo Yan wanted to increase his strength as much as possible before setting off. So he came to the logistics department to buy Spark Agent. There were many people who thought the same as him. Therefore, there were many students in the logistics department today. A large part of them were sophomores. When they saw Luo Yan, their eyes almost flashed with hostility. After all, among the first-year students, Luo Yan was already a celebrity. Whether it was the fight to the death with Luo Beachan or the reward from the local security bureau, there were only a handful of people who didn't know Luo Yan now. Luo Yan habitually walked along the wall and didn't respond to those meaningful looks. He lined up in a low-key manner. When it was his turn, he quickly said, "I want to exchange 5 Spark Agents." The staff member raised his head, looked at Luo Yan's student card and said, "Wait a moment." He made a phone call. Then, the young man who developed the Spark Agent walked out of a room and waved to Luo Yan. "Student Luo, come here." Immediately, a lot of eyes fell on Luo Yan. Luo Yan frowned, but still walked over. As he walked through the crowd, he heard students whispering, "Isn't that Mr. Jiuying from the college's pharmacy development department? How do freshmen know this big guy? Is this teacher very powerful? Don't you know that Mr. Xi is a pharmacist? He develops almost all the new drugs in our school and even in the dungeon every year. I also heard that the vaccine for the red poison was developed by him when he was just a student. Wow, if this freshman holds Mr. Xi's thigh, won't he have to worry about drugs in the future? You think too much. Mr. Xi is not such a good person who will provide drugs for free. Moreover, he racks his brains to find someone to test the drugs every year. I heard that a student who took Mr. Xi's new drugs became impotent for life. It's so tragic." Listening to these words, and looking at the innocent smile on Jiuying's face, Luo Yan began to wonder if the Spark Agent he had been using this month was a new drug. When they came to the door, Jiuying pulled Luo Yan into the office without saying a word. Luo Yan instinctively grabbed his hand and twisted it behind his back. "It hurts. It hurts. Classmate Luo, please let go. I'm a weak scholar. I can't bear this pain." Jiuying yelled. "P.S. It's another day, brothers and sisters. Please give me some encouragement so that I can last longer." Chapter 48, The Son of Destiny. Luo Yan ignored Jiuying's shouting and said in a cold tone, "Spark Agent is a new drug you developed." "Yes, yes, yes," Jiuying shouted, "but don't worry, this drug is very safe. It's just that, if you use it too much, it will easily cause you to get angry and make you have that kind of impulse." Luo Yan frowned. "What kind of impulse?" Jiuying laughed awkwardly twice and said, "It's the male impulse, you know. In order to make the potion have the effect of tempering you only, I added sunflowers, which have the effect of strengthening yang. And, it will stimulate the primitive impulse of organisms." Luo Yan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it is aphrodisiac, not impotence. If it is the latter. He looked at Jiuying's neck. "Well, it's white and tender. In the future, it's a new drug, you must tell me," Luo Yan warned. Jiuying quickly agreed. Luo Yan let go. Jiuying moved his arms and gritted his teeth. "Student Luo, you are really strong. How is it? The effect of Spark Agent is good, right?" Luo Yan nodded. "Apart from those inexplicable side effects, the effect of Spark Agent is indeed good. I want to exchange a few more bottles." Jiuying spread his hands. "The materials are used up. You exchanged a lot this month. I can't keep up with you, because it is not a mass-produced medicine. There are not many spare materials in the warehouse. There is no stock for the time being. But if you cooperate with me to make a report, wait for me to report the results, and the principal approves it, we can mass produce it, and you can come to exchange it at any time in the future. Luo Yan frowned. How to cooperate? It's very simple. I want to collect a sample of your blood and urine for analysis. Then you come here every morning on an empty stomach in the next few days, and cooperate with me to do a few tests. Shi Haoting rubbed his palms with anticipation. Luo Yan thought for a while and said, no problem, but in the future, Spark Agent must be provided to me first, and the credits required for exchange will be less. Okay. Shi Haoting made the decision on the spot. I'll pass on the instructions. When classmate Luo comes to exchange, I'll only charge you 7 credits. It can't be any less. If it's less, it won't even cover the cost. Also, when there are new drugs in the future, classmate Luo, if you are willing to help me test them, I'll give you a discount once they are mass produced. Of course, I will be responsible for your safety and will not let you have any serious illness. At least your life will not be in danger. On my side, sometimes I need some medicinal herbs. You can pick them when you are out on a mission, and I will buy them from you with credits. Credit purchase in this way. There is another channel to earn credits. Luo Yang nodded and said, when you test the new drug, you have to give me credits, otherwise I won't do it. Shi Haoting's expression froze for a moment, then he laughed dryly. Okay, classmate Luo, you have the final say. Then, the credits for testing the Spark Agent? When the drug is in mass production, I'll give you 20 bottles, how about that? Deal. Walking out of the logistics department, Luo Yan thought of the crypt in the misty canyon that was full of Jiuying flowers. It's a pity that there's no way to get those drug raw materials out. Otherwise, it would be a considerable amount of credits. How about asking Captain D for help, letting him be responsible for picking and transporting, and making a profit from it? Luo Yan shook his head again. In that case, he would only have the credit of providing coordinates and information at most. How much money could he get? At this moment, his eyes darkened. He raised his head. Someone was blocking his way. One of them looked familiar, and it was Yang Lixi who wanted to buy his credits before. Luo Yan immediately glanced at his neck. Yang Lixi suddenly felt a little cold in his neck. He touched his neck and said with a smile, Student Luo, I'm changing the potion. I told you not to focus on cultivation. Life needs to be adjusted. Come on, I'll treat you to a meal outside the school. I'll introduce you to a few girls to adjust your life. Luo Yan was a little confused. Eating. Girls. Isn't he here to cause trouble? What a pity. Luo Yan didn't say anything and walked around Yang Lixi. Student Luo, why are you leaving? Let's chat. I just want to make friends with you. Yang Lixi called from behind. Don't you like the girls? It doesn't matter. Sexy queens, intellectual mature women, you can pick whatever you want. Student Luo in a blink of an eye. Luo Yan had already walked away. Yang Lixi shook his head and said, don't be interested in women. Women will only affect the speed of my sword drawing. The protagonist. He is definitely the son of destiny. See how he is. Learn from him. He stretched out his hands and put them on the shoulders of Zhang Hao and the fat man. Our classmate Luo has nothing in his hands. It seems that he didn't get what he wants. Go and ask what he wants to exchange. As long as it is in Guangling City, I will get it back for him, no matter how much money I spend. One sentence. I will definitely make him my friend. The next day, the computer lottery was over, and the group list was released. Luo Yan was in the 7th group, which means that his competition will be on the morning of the 4th day. Coincidentally, the mecha that their group was going to compete for was the silver mecha White Dragon that Luo Yan had once controlled. Looking at the list again, there were his classmates and sophomores on it. Among them, Yang Lixi was on the list. 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. In these 3 days, 6 games have been held. Among them, Li Boheng successfully qualified. Even Zheng Shan was lucky enough to get a mecha. On the morning of the 4th day, it was Luo Yan's turn. He arrived at the competition site early. A ring was built here. The competition would be held on the stage in a melee mode. Those who fell off the ring, surrendered voluntarily, and lost consciousness would all be considered losers. The person who was still standing on the ring in the end would be the winner. In addition, killing was not allowed in the competition. The equipment used was also provided by the academy, all of which were cold weapons without sharpening. When he arrived at the lounge, there was no one there. So Luo Yan first picked out the alloy weapons on the shelf next to him. He had just picked out a blunt sword that was close to the length and weight of the splitting star when he heard the door open. Then he saw Yang Li and his companions walking in. As soon as Yang Lixi came in, he forced a smile. "Morning, classmate Luo." Then he took out a box from his pocket and stuffed it into Luo Yan's pocket. "This is the spark agent that teacher Shi hurriedly made. He asked me to bring it to you. 20 bottles, enough for you to use for a while." Luo Yan was a little surprised. Didn't Shi Haoting say that he was short of materials? How come there was the agent so quickly? And there were 20 bottles. But he didn't ask and took it. Yang Lixi continued, "When I go on stage later, I will surrender directly. I won't argue with you, classmate Luo. But you have to be careful of one person, Wu Tijin. His uncle is Wu Shimo. Do you know who Wu Shimo is?" Luo Yan shook his head. Wu Shimo is the director of the Underground City Security Department. All the underground security bureaus in our city are under his jurisdiction. He's a big official. Yang Lixi lowered his voice and said, "Ever since he got the group list, Wu Tijin has threatened that he will kill anyone who dares to argue with him. If you want to face him, just focus on his left side and attack." That kid injured his left hand while practicing combat skills recently, and it hasn't recovered yet. So relatively speaking, his left side is a weakness. Luo Yan looked at the sophomore in front of him and was finding it increasingly difficult to see through him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Thunder. Luo Yan would not trust Yang Lixi just because of these words. Who knows if he has colluded with Wu Tijin. Moreover, after the competition, he will have to go to the logistics department to find Shi Haoting to confirm the safety of the box of spark agent in his hand. Don't let it be replaced or poisoned. At this time, students participating in this competition arrived one after another. 4 of them were Luo Yan's classmates. The other 5, including Yang Lixi, were sophomores. 4 boys and 1 girl. When these people came in, each of them looked at Luo Yan for a few seconds before choosing their own weapons. Yang Lixi walked over, pointing to one of the tall, thin fair-skinned boys with half-long hair and sharp facial lines. He said, "He is Wu Tijin. This guy's visualization technique has reached the elementary 5th level, and he is better at mystical arts than combat skills. In our class, he has mastered so many mystical arts that he can be ranked in the top 3. But the rules of this game only allow the use of mystical arts below number 10, so you don't have to worry too much. When the game starts, find a way to get close to him and pull him into close combat. His combat skills are very poor." The boy named Wu Tijin looked at Yang Lixi in astonishment. "Mr. Yang, are you sick? Why are you exposing my secrets?" Yang Lixi snorted and said, "I'm happy to do so. What can you do to me?" Wu Tijin really couldn't do anything to him. After all, Yang Lixi is the son of the director of the construction bureau. He could only snort. "You will be in trouble later." Luo Yan remained silent. But in his heart, he felt that the 2 men were not acting. That was even more strange. There was no reason for Yang Lixi, the son of the director, to be so nice to him. What is he after? Soon, the broadcast sounded, "Students participating in the competition, please come on stage. The competition will start in 5 minutes. No one will be allowed to wait after the time limit." The students left the lounge one after another and came to the ring. Everyone suddenly felt the ground shaking slightly. A huge figure walked over. Mecha. White dragon. The mecha that looked like a silver giant walked towards the ring. The parts that were damaged in the battle with Teoti had been repaired. The shape of the white dragon was simple. Because it was a basic machine, there were no external accessories on it. The only weapon was a rifle specially designed for behemoths, and a chain blade hidden in the wrist armor on the right arm. It was painted silver white, and the engine cooling vent on the chest was designed in the shape of a V. When the engine was driven, blue light would shine through the cooling vent, lighting up the V. At this time, Xing Feng on the podium introduced, "This is a mecha that has served in the Surface Exploration Corps before. For some reasons, it is now transferred to our academy. White Dragon, Xuanji. Primary body. Height 81 meters. Weight 1,850 tons. Operating system is Jiuying along 2nd generation. Main engine HAO, and 2 auxiliary engines. This is the mecha you will compete for today. Come on." The competition begins. After Xing Feng announced the start, Yang Lixi raised his hand at the speed of light. "I quit. I surrender." Suddenly, whether on the stage or off the stage, there was silence. Yang Lixi smiled and gestured to Luo Yan with a come on gesture, then jumped off the stage swiftly and ran to the audience. In the audience, his goddess, the girl named Liu Ruohan, was leaning forward, supporting her chin with both hands on the fence, looking at the stage. As soon as Yang Lixi arrived, he immediately took a drink and a fan from Zhang Hao and Fatty, 2 followers, and moved closer to the goddess. "Ruohan, it's hot. Drink something," Liu Ruohan said without turning her head. The underground city has a constant temperature system. The temperature is constant at 27 degrees during the day. How can it be hot? Besides, let me say it again. You are not my type. Don't waste your time on me. Yang Lixi slapped his phone and said, "How can this be called a waste of time? If you ignore me, that's a waste of time. If you don't want to eat, then eat some fruit. The watermelon my dad sent yesterday is so sweet." He gestured and Zhang Hao handed over a box of watermelon. Liu Ruohan said impatiently, "Don't disturb me watching the ring." Yang Lixi immediately made a zipper motion on his mouth. On the ring, the students were not in a hurry to start the battle. The first year students looked at the second year students cautiously. Among the sophomores, Wu Tijin looked around and said, "Everyone, we have a celebrity here today. You should all know Luo Yan, right? Luo Yan killed Luo Beichan in the death arena 1 month after he enrolled. I heard that the deaths of several other classmates were also related to him. Not long ago, he was an advanced representative of bravery. Among us, there should be no one more cool than Luo Yan, right? If we fight alone, I'm afraid none of us can match Luo Yan." A sophomore said, "Tijin, what do you want to say?" Wu Tijin's eyes fell on Luo Yan. "I want to say that, if everyone wants to have the opportunity to drive a mecha, we must first join forces to ask Luo Yan to step down. Wait until Luo Yan goes down, and then we can decide the winner. What do you say?" Several sophomores nodded in agreement without much thought. The 4 freshmen were still hesitating. Wu Tijin shouted, "First year students, what do you say?" Finally, a boy shouted, "I agree." He looked at Luo Yan, his eyes bloodshot. "Luo Yan, don't blame us. We want to drive mechs, too. We want to get the reward, too. You can't take all the benefits, can you? You are capable anyway. Why don't you let us go this time? Go down." Someone took the lead, and the other students became bolder. "Yes, can't you let us go? Go down. Go down." In the process, Wu Tijin quietly retreated, distanced himself from Luo Yan, and then shouted, "Don't talk nonsense with him. Let's go together." Suddenly, one by one, the students either boosted their Yuan force and rushed towards Luo Yan, or they formed seals with their hands and used mystical arts. Luo Yan, one person, one sword, watching coldly. Then, the Yuan force rushed into the acupoints, opening the Yuan wheel. Boom. Luo Yang burst into a ball of bright yellow light, rising like a flame, and vaguely formed the phantom of layers of mountains. Looking at the opponent rushing towards him, he spoke in a voice that only he could hear. "Benefits, benefits. You have to fight for them yourself. You have to fight for them with your life, not by others' charity." The long sword swept across the ground. The ring was like thunder sweeping across, and the lightning was dazzling. This was a new combat skill that Luo Yan had learned, and it needed to be coordinated with the Koan wheel. Thunder. Wanjin. In the lightning, the ring was torn into pieces. Those students who were charging and making seals all cried out in surprise. They were unstable and fell off the high platform one after another. There was silence in the audience. The watermelon in Yang Li's hand fell to the ground. Liu Ruohan, who supported his chin with both hands, narrowed his eyes slightly. Wen Feng had coughed twice, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The ring used for the competition collapsed by 2/3. Liu Yan's sword almost tore the ring apart. At the same time, he also asked many students to leave the ring. Chapter 50, Mystical War. Well done, Luo. In the audience, Zheng Shan put his hand to his mouth, blew a whistle, and waved his flag to cheer. Luo was even more powerful than before in the forbidden area. He got everyone down to the ring in one go. Haha, falling down to the ring means losing. What a clean win. Zheng Shan was so excited that he kept talking. Li Boheng, who was tall and clean-faced, adjusted his glasses and said, "It's not a win yet. Look, there's one left." Zheng Shan was stunned and looked at the stage. Only 1/3 of the ring was left, and he couldn't see anyone else except Luo Yan. However, he found that Luo Yan was looking to the left side of the ring. Zheng Shan moved his sight and found that there was a black rope tied to a steel bar at the edge of the ring. Then someone jumped up. Second grader, Wu Tijun. Just now, Wu Tijun reacted quickly. When he realized that the ring was about to collapse, he quickly formed a seal and used the number 1 mysterious technique, black rope. At the critical moment, he entangled a steel bar and swung over with the force, so he did not leave the ring. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly and quietly activated the barrier breaking eye. He looked over. He saw that Wu Tijun's body was surrounded by grey light, bright red light and bright yellow light. His blood value was 451, and his UN force was 120 average. The high blood value was because Wu Tijun's visualization technique was already at the elementary 5th level, and his body had been tempered by UN force. The UN force was at the elementary 2nd level. Every second-year student who participated in the competition wore a bracelet on his hand. It was a UN force suppression device. It could suppress the UN force to a certain value. For the sake of fairness, their UN forces were all suppressed to the 120 average line. In this way, the gap with the first-year students was not far. Luo Yan also wore one on his hand. He was special. Although he was a first-year student, he was already at the elementary 4th level. His blood value was 572, and if the UN force was not suppressed, it would reach 196 average. So he also wore a suppressing device to control his Yuanli at 120. After the outburst just now, his Yuanli was only 70. However, because of viewing mountains and seas, his Yuanli would recover slowly. Now, only Wu Tijun was left on the ring. Luo Yan stomped his legs hard on the ring, and the whole person jumped out like a rocket, rushing towards Wu Tijun. Wu Tijun held a long metal stick in his hand. Originally, he wanted to use the advantage of long weapons to consume Luo Yan's physical energy. But after seeing Luo Yan's outburst just now, Wu Tijun recognized a reality. He could not beat Luo Yan in combat skills. But he was not panicked. Every profession has its own specialty. During the class, the instructor emphasized more than once, whether it is combat skills or mysterious arts, you can only have one main and one secondary. Don't practice both. Otherwise, you will bite off more than one bite. Wu Tijun doesn't like close combat with others. Therefore, he chose to major in mysterious arts. Learn 1 or 2 combat skills in case of emergency. But now, if you still want to use close combat to consume the opponent, and then use the mysterious art to decide the outcome, then it is too naive. Wu Tijun immediately threw out the long stick, and used it to interfere with Luo Yan. Then he quickly formed seals with both hands. Finally, he shouted, "Illusion Wolf." Bright yellow light danced in front of him, like bright starlight, and quickly condensed into an illusory wolf beast without entity. In the audience, Heo, who had a hard face and a straight sitting posture, looked like a tough guy. He said, "No Tenzuanshu, Phantom Wolf. It has the ability to fight independently and can attack, defend, entangle, and fight. If you want to defeat the practitioner, you have to kill this troublesome thing first. That's why I hate people who use Zuanshu the most. They are unwilling to fight head on and can only do things behind the scenes. Next to him, Jiuying, who was chewing candy in his mouth, said disapprovingly, "Do you think everyone is like you, with their brains filled with muscles? Just win. Why do you have to fight head on?" Jiuying shouted, "Front-on combat is the romance of men, you know nothing." Jiuying was not angry either. He blinked and said, "Of course I don't understand. Who made me a woman?" On the ring, Liu just turned his head to avoid Wu Tijin's long stick and saw an illusory wolf beast condensed by Yuanli in front of his opponent. As soon as the wolf beast took shape, it let out a silent roar and pounced on Liu. Now only 1/3 of the ring was left. There was not much space for Liu to get around the wolf beast, and Liu's speed was not particularly fast. How can 2 legs outrun 4 legs? He had no expression on his face, and he rushed towards the wolf beast without slowing down. The alloy sword in his hand turned into a flash of lightning, and it flashed silver and white, and hit the head of the phantom wolf. Originally, the phantom wolf had a fast reaction, and it was difficult to hit it with ordinary attacks. But now, Liu used the combat skill Thunder. Naturally, he succeeded in one blow. The phantom wolf was immediately struck to the ground, and its outline blurred, and it was a sign of disintegration. Liu did not stop and ran straight to Wu Tijin, and the metal sword slashed with a hum. Wu Tijin then formed a seal again. The Yuanli on his body fluctuated and formed an invisible barrier, which collided with Liu's sword. The Yuanli of both sides collided. A roar sounded on the ring. The invisible barrier appeared with several cracks, but it did not collapse. Liu closed his eyes slightly. He also knew this mysterious technique. Number 5 mystical art, empty wall, dedicated to defense. At this moment, his shoulder suddenly felt painful and heavy. His sight dropped. He saw that his left shoulder was bitten hard by the illusion wolf. This wolf beast did not collapse after being hit by the thunderbolt. It is worthy of being the number 10 mystical art. In the audience, Jiuying said softly, "Your little friend is in trouble." People who are good at mystical arts are also good at layout. Once the battle situation is formed, it will be like a quagmire, making it difficult for the opponent to extricate themselves. Now, that Wu Tijin uses the empty wall to defend, making it difficult for your little friend to break through and hurt him. The illusion wolf will interfere in the back. Next, he will probably use the number 3 mystical art for further control, and then use the number 7 mystical art to make the final decision. Jiuying snorted, "He is not my friend." Then, Jiuying stood up and shouted, "First grader, knock him down for me." On the ring, Liu's eyes shrank slightly, and a fierce light flashed. The metal sword turned upside down and stabbed fiercely behind him. The sword broke through the wolf's body, and the phantom wolf finally collapsed. But just as the wolf beast collapsed, illusory chains formed by the condensation of elemental force entangled Liu's hands and feet. These elemental force chains immediately made Liu unable to move. The corresponding information flashed through Liu's mind. Mystical art number 3, binding chain. Then, a sharp whistle sounded on the ring. In the whistle, Liu's whole body kept shaking and swaying, as if he was hit by invisible javelins, and spots of blood quickly appeared on his body. Moreover, these blood stains gradually expanded. Mystical art number 7, wind gun. Chapter 51. You are looking for death. Old Liu. Seeing Liu's hands and feet entangled by the Yuanli chains, unable to move, Wu Tijin bit him tightly and attacked him with the wind gun. Zhengshan couldn't help but stand up nervously, and most of his body was about to lean over the railing. Li Bohan raised his glasses and said, "Don't be nervous, classmate, Liu hasn't lost yet." Zhengshan saw that, although Liu's body was covered with blood, it was shocking. However, the Yuanli around him was rising, and the virtual image of overlapping mountains was vaguely visible. Liu was still standing, his eyes were shining more fiercely, and he kept scanning Wu Tijin's neck and chest and other fatal places. Then he looked at the knees and collarbones with great restraint, which would paralyze the opponent, but not kill him. In the audience, Liu Ruohan, holding her chin with both hands, said with a smile, "He is controlled by the binding chain and cannot move. In this way, he will not only have to take all of Wu Tijin's wind gun, but also cannot relieve the force. He can only rely on himself to bear it. He didn't fall down even like this. He is really tough." tough. Yang Lixi next to him suddenly had a bad association. He couldn't help but look at Liu Ruohan a few more times. Fortunately, his goddess didn't have a blurry look in her eyes, nor did she have a peachy face. Her expression was normal. Yang Lixi was slightly relieved. On the stage, Luo Yang burst out his Yuanli and shattered those Yuanli chains. After all, it was only a number 3 Zuanshu. It was far less strong than the Phantom Wolf. Luo Yang used the breaking barrier right to look again. After the previous round of Zuanshu burst, Wu Tijin's Yuanli was only less than 50. It was about the same as him. At this time, Wu Tijin formed a seal behind the empty wall again, and let the Yuanli form a Phantom Wolf, another wolf beast. Although Wu Tijin's energy dropped to 24, it seemed that he would only use the mysterious technique once more. But it was still a huge threat. Soon, the wolf beast pounced again. This time, the wolf beast no longer attacked actively, but harassed and fought. Luo Yang guessed that Wu Tijin intended to let the illusion wolf fix itself in one position. Then he would use the next mysterious technique to decide the winner. Luo Yang guessed correctly. However, Wu Tijin's calculations should be more precise. So far, he has not used the Shenzang. His Shenzang is a natural system, burning. It can make all attacks have a high temperature flame effect. Wu Tijin has not used it just now. Chao Chu thought that the burst of the wind gun just now was enough to take down Luo Yan. Unexpectedly, Luo Yan practiced viewing mountains and seas, and was unexpectedly able to withstand it. But it's good this way. The next wind gun with the burning effect will definitely make this freshman suffer. He glanced at the mecha white dragon not far away. Wu Tijin had only one thought in his mind. This mecha, I'll definitely get it. At this time, Luo Yan dodged the attack of the illusion wolf sideways. It seemed that he became impatient because of the wolf's entanglement. He roared and rushed forward recklessly, raising his sword to chop. The illusion wolf dodged flexibly, circled behind Luo Yan, and opened his mouth to bite his sleeve. Good opportunity. Wu Tijin activated the Shenzang, while forming seals with both hands. As he pushed his two palms in the direction of Luo Yan, a bunch of wind guns burning with flames flew towards Luo Yan with a whistle. At the same time, Luo Yan's eyes suddenly lit up with a sharp light. Yuanli rushed all the way to the acupoints. Kaon wheel. Boom. Bright yellow light burst out and rose. Luo Yan's hair fluttered and flew. A pair of red pupils were like burning flames. He leaned forward violently and stepped forward. His sleeves tore, and he threw off the illusion wolf. Facing the flaming wind guns, he raised his arms to protect his head and chest. He just rushed over. The flaming spears scratched his body one by one, leaving blood marks. And on Luo Yan's body, there were balls of high temperature flames, burning him to death. Luo Yan roared again. The Yuan force vibrated, forming an impact, dispersing the flames on his body. But his body was still burned with blisters. But Luo Yan did not stop. After crashing into the flaming wind guns, he raised his long sword, and the alloy longsword suddenly turned into a flash of lightning, and slashed fiercely on Wu Tijin's empty wall. Combat skills, thunder, and this is a combat skill used in the Kaon wheel state. The invisible barrier was instantly shattered, and under the impact, Wu Tijin was also shaken by the airflow. In the whistling wind, he barely opened his eyes and saw vaguely. Luo Yan's footsteps did not stop. In the blink of an eye, he was already beside him. The alloy longsword swept across. It swept towards his left side. Wu Tijin instinctively raised his arm to block. Bang! The moment the longsword swept his arm, he screamed in pain. Not long ago, when he was practicing a martial arts skill, he accidentally injured his left hand. It has not yet healed. Now he was swept by Luo Yan's sword. It almost took his life. He instinctively jumped to the right. But when he landed, he stepped on nothing. He fell to the ground all of a sudden. Wu Tijin was stunned. He touched the hard ground. He couldn't believe it. He actually fell off the ring. Lost. In the audience, Zheng Shan jumped up, pointed at Wu Tijin and shouted, he fell down. He lost. Old Luo won. He Heyo, who had been standing just now. Only then did he sit down. A smile unconsciously hung on the corner of his mouth. Soon, the school broadcast also sounded. When Feng announced, Group 7, the winner is Luo Yan. Hearing this, Luo Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, there was a pain in his right leg. He turned around. It turned out that Wu Tijan's illusion wolf was still there. This thing rushed up and bit Luo Yan's leg. On the ground, Wu Tijan suddenly jumped up. His eyes were red. He shouted like he had lost his mind. I didn't lose. He suddenly pulled off the bracelet and took off the Yuanli suppression device. In an instant, bright yellow light surged around Wu Tijan. His suppressed Yuanli was restored. He quickly formed a seal. He raised his palm and pushed towards Luo Yan on the ring. A ball of light that kept twisting and burning with flames. It roared and shot like a cannonball. Mystical art number 15. Split cloud? Sujiyu sat up straight and his face darkened. He directly climbed over the fence and jumped down. He wanted to stop Wu Tijan. Mystical art number 15. Split cloud has a high intensity explosion effect, and after the explosion, there is also a splash effect of Yuanli jet. If Luo Yan was hit by this, it was like being hit by a grenade at close range first, and then being shot by a shotgun. It would be an ugly death. Moreover, Wu Tijan also used the Shenzang to add high temperature flames to this mysterious technique. This was completely aimed at killing Luo Yan. Kill him ruthlessly. Unfortunately, although Heio's reaction was not slow, he was too far away from the ring. It was too late. Boom. Before Heio could reach the ring, a cloud of fire exploded on it. Then, jets of energy burning with flames shot through the air, causing the audience closer to the ring to scream and dodge. Heio stopped. His face was quite ugly. He looked at Wu Tijan and shouted, "Sophomore, you are looking for death." But at this time, on the ring, another voice came out at the same time. The same words as Heio. "You are looking for death." Chapter 52, Counterattack. A figure suddenly shot out from the fire and smoke of the ring. Luo Yan. Just now, the incident happened suddenly, but Luo Yan still had a phantom wolf hanging on his leg. So he kicked up and threw the phantom wolf. He used this wolf beast to block Wu Tijan's mysterious art cloud splitting. At the first explosion, the phantom wolf collapsed directly. After using the phantom wolf to block the mysterious art, Luo Yan instinctively curled up his body. This allowed him to luckily avoid the second injury after the explosion of cloud splitting. Now, his Yuan power is still surging. The effect of the Yuan wheel has not ended. Luo Yan rushed down the ring. He was covered with blisters and scars, but in his eyes, the coldness did not retreat, and the murderous intent was strong. Just like a wild wolf that was aroused by its ferocity, Wu Tijan glanced at Luo Yan, and was attracted by the murderous aura of his red pupils. His mind was blank. It was hard to blame him. As a sophomore, although he had several actual combat experiences, he was still determined to kill. How could he compare to Luo Yan, who was struggling to survive on the surface? Luo Yan was not polite. The metal sword flew out of his hand. Amidst the whistling sound, the metal belt flashed with light, like thunder, and in a blink of an eye it came to Wu Tijan. A life and death moment. Wu Tijan roared and dodged quickly. Although he avoided the vital part of his face, one of his eyes was rubbed by the sword. He closed his eyes immediately in pain. The moment he closed his eyes, Luo Yan had already hit him. 2 punches. Hit Wu Tijan's chest and eyebrows. Wu Tijan retreated repeatedly. On the contrary, Luo Yan stopped moving. He couldn't move a finger. The 2 punches just now drained all his energy and physical strength. He was still standing, purely relying on perseverance. The whole venue was silent. After a while, Wu Tijan suddenly fell backwards, and the back of his head hit the ground heavily. After this knock, his body suddenly deformed, as if his flesh and blood had lost their support, and he was almost losing his human form. On the high platform, Wen Fenghua coughed twice, and then whispered, "Broken bones." Yes, Wu Tijan was hit by broken bones. Twice. All the bones and internal organs in his body have been shattered. Even with the most advanced technology and equipment now, he can't be saved. Only then did 2 teams of school doctors enter the venue. One team of school doctors came to Wu Tijan, checked him symbolically, and then shook their heads in the direction of Wen Fenghua, indicating that the person was beyond saving. Seeing the doctor shaking his head, Luo Yang breathed a sigh of relief. Then his eyes went black. He fainted. When he opened his eyes again, He found himself still on the stretcher and was being sent to the medical department. It seemed that he was only unconscious for a few seconds. Watching Luo Yan being sent out of the venue, Heo turned around and walked back. He heard his partner Sujiayu's voice coming from the audience above his head. Hey, who said Luo wasn't his friend just now? Someone is running more anxiously than anyone else. What's going on? Heo looked up and saw Sujiayu sitting on the railing, his legs swinging back and forth. Shut up, Heo said unhappily. The Wu guy can't stand losing. He is shameless and mean. He actually killed him at this time. If it was someone else on the ring, I would have made him look bad. Sujiayu snorted. It's a pity you don't have a chance. But your cat killed the Wu guy. I'm afraid he will be in trouble. Are you worried about someone? Heo responded rudely. Worry about nothing. Wu Tijin asked for it. Even if he has an uncle who is a minister, can he come to the school to ask for someone? Besides, what is this place? This is Basin School. It's a mecha academy authorized by the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. Even Guangling City has no right to dictate to the academy, let alone him as a security minister. Sujiayu blinked at Heo and said, you are so naive. But I like this about you. Cute. Heo waved his hand. Get lost. After that, he ignored his partner and turned around to leave. Besides, after Luo Yan was sent to the infirmary, he immediately underwent an operation. It was already evening when he came out of the operating room and was sent to the general ward. The doctor took a tablet and looked at it and said, the operation was successful. Basically, you can get out of bed after lying down for a few days. Thanks to the fact that you are practicing viewing mountains and seas, and you are already at the 4th level of the primary level, your body is much stronger than other people of the same grade. Otherwise, you won't be able to get out of bed for 10 days or half a month. Luo Yang nodded and asked, then can I practice? The doctor said flatly, no, you must rest for the next 3 days. You must receive medicinal bath treatment every day. You are not allowed to practice, get up, or get out of bed. Luo Yan looked at the doctor's serious face and finally had to compromise. After the doctor left, Zheng Shan and Li Boheng came. Old Luo, are you okay? Zheng Shan pulled a chair and sat down. Luo Yan shook his head and said, I have to stay in bed for at least 3 days. Then you can take a good rest. Anyway, the actual combat test will be in a few days. When you can get out of bed, it will be the day to set off. Zheng Shan said again, that Wu guy is so shameless. He has already lost, but he still wants to attack. And I heard from the seniors that the last move Wu Tijin used was the number 15 mystical art, cloud splitting. That is a killer move that can directly kill people. Li Boheng smiled slightly and said, but he didn't expect that the phantom wolf he left on the stage would save your life. Luo Yang couldn't help but look at him. Li Boheng said calmly, I have deduced the situation at that time. After thinking about it, I really can't think of how you survived under that attack, except using the phantom wolf to block the cloud splitting. Luo Yang couldn't help but look at him with a higher opinion. Li Boheng was able to accurately deduce the situation at that time, which shows that this person is very meticulous. Zheng Shan added, the academy was too careless this time. In the future, if everyone's energy is suppressed at the primary 2nd level, nothing will happen. There's not even a teacher left to deal with emergencies. If it weren't for Lao Luo's quick reaction, we would have to go to the morgue to visit him now. Li Boheng smiled and said, we can't blame the school entirely. Everything was normal during the competition a few days ago. Who would have thought that Wu Tijin would do such a thing? Zheng Shan said nervously, by the way, Boheng, didn't you say the Wu guy has an uncle who is an official? He won't come to trouble Lao Luo, will he? Li Boheng put away his smile and said, he definitely will. Even if his uncle doesn't show up, he will send someone to the school to ask for him. However, the academy was indeed negligent this time, and classmate Luo almost lost his life. In addition, Wu Tijin violated the rules first. So in this matter, the academy will definitely help classmate Luo. Classmate Luo, don't worry about anything, just focus on healing. Chapter 53, Domineering. When the surface time came tonight, the holographic panel of the sky in Guangling, the underground city, slowly turned dark. Then the stars shone brightly, and the moon rose. The ventilation system brought a soft evening breeze, making the residents of the city feel like they were living on the surface. Lights were on at the gate of the Behemoths Academy, and the soft light illuminated the horizontal sides of the academy. At this time, on the road in front of the academy, 4 or 5 black cars roared in and stopped in front of the gate. The people in the cars did not get out, but kept honking their horns, asking the school to open the door. An old man came out of the gate room of the academy, waved his hand and shouted, "What are you doing?" Leading a black car. The window rolled down, and a man who looked like a personal assistant leaned out from inside. He was wearing sunglasses late at night. He said in a bad tone, "Open the door, we want to see the principal." The old man asked calmly, "To see the principal, have you made an appointment?" The assistant patted the car door and said, "Old man, do you know who is behind you? Director Wu Changqing and his family. Our son died in your college for no reason today. Our Mr. Wu wants to ask the principal for an explanation. Don't make yourself uncomfortable." The old man laughed and said, "If I want to be free and happy, I won't be guarding the door here. From what you said, you don't have an appointment. If you don't have an appointment, wait for me. I will report it first. Whether the principal sees you or not is another matter." The assistant said to the driver angrily, "Don't waste time talking to this old man, rush in." The old man slowly pointed to the horizontal banner on the gate. "This is the 100 Battles Mecha College. I want to see who dares to rush in." After that, he walked into the gatehouse with his hands behind his back. The assistant was at a loss for a moment. At this time, the car phone rang. He quickly answered it. A deep male voice said, "Be patient." The assistant said yes repeatedly. After a while, an electric vehicle slowly arrived on the main road of the school. The gate of the college opened, and several people got off the electric vehicle and walked leisurely to the outside of the school gate. The leader was nearly 40 years old. He put a handkerchief to his mouth and coughed twice before speaking. "I'm Wei Fenghua, the director of the college's teaching department. If you have anything, just tell me." The doors of the black cars opened one after another. A group of big men in black suits came forward, accompanying a middle-aged couple like stars surrounding the moon. The couple. The man had a square face, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and he looked majestic without being angry. The woman was dressed in luxurious clothes, glittering with jewels, and looked noble. "I'm Wu Changqing, and Wu Tijin is my child." The leading man came up and said, "Teacher Wei, I want to ask you something. We sent our child to your college. Why did my child suddenly die?" The woman next to him sobbed softly when she heard this. Wei Fenghua did not answer but asked, "Is that why you came here?" Wu Changqing nodded vigorously, "That's right." Wei Fenghua covered his mouth with a handkerchief and coughed a few times, saying, "Well, although we have already issued a written notice, since the parents have come in person, then I will say it again. In today's school competition, Wu Tijin was defeated and refused to accept it. He violated school rules and committed murder, but was not allowed to do so. Afterwards, he accidentally died in the counterattack of another student. This is the cause of his death. The school has also sent the live video of the game to your Wu family together with the written notice. If you didn't receive it, I can send you another copy." Wu Changqing's eyes were filled with anger. "I know all this. There's no need to trouble Director Wei. But, did our child die in vain? Just a notice and a video, and it's over?" Wei Fenghua took off his handkerchief. "Then how do you think it should be handled?" Wu Changqing said in a deep voice, "Even if Tijin violated school rules and refused to accept defeat, but it's understandable. Which young man is not full of blood and energy? He just couldn't control himself for a moment. It's not a crime punishable by death. So, shouldn't the school hand over the murderer?" As soon as the words fell, someone behind Wei Fenghua laughed. A girl said, "Hey-hey-oh, listen to this. This gentleman is really good at speaking. He didn't say a word that Wu Tijin wanted to kill people first. He just kept accusing others of killing his son. Could it be that his Wu family is so great? So, only his Wu family is allowed to kill and set fire, but his son is not allowed to be killed?" Wu Changqing immediately said in a low voice, "Who are you?" The girl looked frightened and waved her hands and said, "I'm just a little girl. Mr. Wu won't bother with me, right?" Wu Changqing snorted and said, "Adults are talking. Children should shut up." At this time, Wen Feng had coughed twice and said, Jiuying, stop making trouble, and apologized to Mr. Wu. Then, without waiting for the girl to apologize, he skipped the matter and said, Mr. Wu, although Jiuying speaks quickly, he also has some truth. If classmate Wu Tijin hadn't taken action first, this regrettable thing wouldn't have happened. As for the murderer or something, Mr. Wu, you are too serious. There is no murderer. He was just a student in our college. He was fighting back in self-defense. There is no murderer. It's even less likely that our college will hand him over. It's late, Mr. Wu, please go back. After saying that, Wen Fenghua turned around and was about to leave. Before Wu Changqing responded, his wife Zhang Xiangxin had already rushed up and shouted, wait, you want to leave now? Is there any law? You, Basin College, sheltered the murderer and killed my child. You are all murderers. You are all murderers. You are worse than pigs and dogs. She suddenly took out something from her bag, pointed at Wei Fenghua and screamed, if you don't hand over the murderer today, this matter will not end. It was a pistol. When Wu Changqing saw the pistol, he knew it was going to be bad. At this moment, his eyes blurred. I don't know when, there was a figure beside his wife Zhang Xiangxin. It was the girl named Su Jiu who had just mocked him. A black rope stretched out of her hand. The black rope tied Zhang Xiangxin's hands and pulled them down together with the pistol. The muzzle of the gun pointed to the ground. Then a tall boy walked out from the school. Step by step. You are rude. You pointed a gun at the instructor. It's your first offense. I'll spare your life. Bang. He raised his hand and slapped Zhang Xiangxin on the face. Half of Zhang Xiangxin's face swelled up immediately. Wu Changqing opened his mouth wide, unable to believe that the people from Basin Academy were so domineering, openly slapping his wife. You guys. Wu Changqing was shaking with anger. He was proud that he had a big brother who was the Minister of Security, and he just wanted to learn from him and hand over the murderer. He felt that this request was not excessive, but he didn't expect that the school would not only refuse to hand over the murderer, but also slap his wife. Wu Changqing raised his hand suddenly. He was not a pushover. Among the people he brought tonight, there were several who were good at visualization. However, at this time, a group of people walked out of the school. Everyone was holding a gun. They were the school security. Wen Fenghua coughed twice and said, Basin Academy is an important place, with autonomy and its own armed forces. If anyone wants to mess around, don't blame the bullets for being blind. PS. 6th update. What a surprise. I'm trying my best to write. Brothers and sisters, please give me some votes to encourage me. Chapter 54. Conflict escalates. Wu Changqing is also a military fan and has some knowledge of firearms. He glanced at the school security guards. His face gradually turned livid. School security guards are mostly equipped with assault rifles, which belong to the category of bullpup guns. The built-in laser aiming indicator complements the overall 1.5x optical sight. The bolt handle of this gun is in the upper grip, which can be operated by both hands, making it more convenient to use in combat. In addition, these security guards' guns also have grenade launchers hanging below. This is not school security, this is simply a soldier going to the battlefield. Wu Changqing didn't expect that Basin Academy would treat him like this. It also dispatched militarized security forces. Could it be that my son's matter is just over? Unwilling, Wu Changqing didn't wave his hand in the end. Instead, he turned around. He took out a mobile phone and called his brother Wu Shimo. Wen Fenghua was naturally not interested in accompanying Wu Changqing here. After telling the security captain, he left with He Heo, Su Jiu and other students from the student union. The school security had set up a cordon outside the gate. The meaning was clear. Anyone who dared to rush through the checkpoint would be shot. The two sides were deadlocked for a moment. Not long after, the lights on the road in front of the school gate came on again. There were more vehicles this time. And there were special cars from the security department. Some of them were cars from the local security bureau in the nearby area. More than a dozen cars arrived, the doors opened, and dozens of people swarmed in like locusts. Those from the security department were all wearing bulletproof vests, combat armor, tactical helmets, and carrying assault rifles, looking like they were going to go to war. Seeing these security personnel, Wu Changqing breathed a sigh of relief and was refreshed. He supported his wife and said, "Brother lent us some people. Tonight, I will definitely ask the college to hand over the murderer. Don't worry." At this time, the director of the local security bureau in the area where the college was located came over, and after a few words with Wu Changqing, he came to the front of the college gate. He was smiling. "I'm Jiuying, the director of the local security bureau of our school district. Please inform the principal. Just say that there's a murder in the college, and our local security bureau is going to investigate." The college security captain, who came from the exploration corps, immediately took out a tactical pistol, pointed it at the so-called local security chief, and shouted in a deep voice, "Get lost. Basin College, it's not your turn as a district local security bureau to take charge." Jiuying's face suddenly turned blue and purple. He received a call from the security department. He was asked to use his identity as the district local security chief and the murder investigation as an excuse to enter the college to arrest people. Unexpectedly, a security captain of the college didn't look at him well. He said with a sullen face, "The academy is in Guangling City. According to Article 48 of Chapter 7 of the Urban Management Regulations, the maintenance of order in all public places is under the jurisdiction of the district's security bureau, where the place is located." The security captain said expressionlessly, "According to Article 127 of Chapter 5 of the Underground City Security Management Law, the 100 Battles Mecha Academy is directly under the jurisdiction of the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. The academy has autonomy, self-government, territorial rights, and maintenance rights, and has its own armed forces. This regulation is superior to other management regulations." Jiuying was immediately speechless and winked at his adjutant. The adjutant brought a tablet and flipped through the so-called Underground City Security Management Law in a panic. At this time, Wu Changqing came over, pushed Jiuying away. Then he looked at a man behind him. The man with the words Director of Field Affairs of the Security Department on his chest coughed dryly. He stepped forward and said, "Although the college has the right to manage itself, but now, we suspect that your college has hidden the surface stowaways that our security department has been chasing. Here is a search warrant. The security department has the right to enter any building or any place in Guangling to perform tasks. I hope you won't make things difficult for us." The security captain spat and laughed. "When I was fighting the behemoth on the surface, you guys in the security department didn't know where to eat milk. Don't scare me. Whether you have a search warrant or not, you either go back today, or you fight in. Choose it yourself." The clerk suddenly felt a headache. Tonight, so many field combat personnel were dispatched purely to create a momentum. He didn't really want to go to war with the 100 Battles College. Now seeing that the college security captain was so strong, he couldn't help but look at Wu Changqing. Wu Changqing lowered his voice and said, "Russian, do you think they really dare to shoot? Once they shoot, it's no small matter. Will they do this for a student?" The clerk hesitated and said, "But..." Wu Changqing suppressed his anger and said, "But what? If anything happens, I'll take responsibility." At this moment, the ground shook. Suddenly, beams of light came from the academy. They shone in front of the gate. Wu Changqing and others could hardly open their eyes. Then, 2 mechs came out of the school. Mechs. Wu Changqing blocked the strong light with his hands. He couldn't believe that the academy actually drove out mechs. The 2 mechs. One was humanoid, all black, and heavy, especially the 2 arms, which were particularly strong. It was the mysterious Black Thunder. The other one was like a giant wolf. When walking, it walked like a tiger and a wolf, very majestic. It was the magic machine gun language. The 2 mechs came to the gate. Black Thunder raised the Shenwei rifle used to fight against giant beasts. Greedy Wolf showed the missiles. The muzzles and bullets were all pointed at Wu Changqing and others. The head of the security department's affairs immediately turned green. Let alone missiles. Even if the rifle of the humanoid mecha was fired, he would definitely be turned into a meat pie. At this time, the eyes of the magic machine Greedy Wolf lit up and projected a light screen in the air. On the light screen was Pan Rinfeng sitting in the principal's office. The principal was holding an old cat and stroking its fur. he said without even looking at the people outside the school gate. "You guys are having a lot of fun. Mr. Wu, you just rely on your brother who is the security minister. Without your brother, you are nothing. Why? Your children are children and can't die. Other people's children are not children. They deserve to die, right? That doesn't make sense. In my school, all children are the same. No matter how prominent or humble their identities are outside. Once they enter the school, they only have one identity. Students. Wu Tijan dared to kill people, so he must be prepared to be killed. Now that he's dead, you parents are here to make trouble? I'm sorry, Pan Rinfeng doesn't know how to reason. I know, whoever has the bigger fist is right. Now, if you still want to reason, go talk to our students mechs. Chapter 55, No Arrogance. Wu Changqing's face changed, and he had lost his composure. If it was just the security team, he would still dare to charge. But now, they have brought out the mechs. How can flesh and blood compare with these metal creations? The combatants of the security department were even paler. When they came, no one told them that they would have to face mechs, face real killing machines. At this moment, a vast wave of shock was gradually spreading in their hearts. Many people inside had already retreated unconsciously, including the chief clerk. The chief clerk wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Mr. Wu, how about we forget about this today?" If Wu Changqing still refused to give up, he would leave in anger. He didn't want to risk his life for nothing. Wu Changqing clenched his 10 fingers on both hands. His body trembled. His nails were embedded in his palms. He was unwilling. But what's the use of being unwilling? He didn't have the ability to get a few mechs to strengthen his prestige. In addition to the Exploration Corps and the 100 Battles Academy, there are only a few people who can own mechs. And these people only have 1 or 2 mechs. Okay. Wu Changqing turned around and said, "I admit defeat in this matter tonight. But this matter will not end like this. Let's wait and see." He originally thought that he had taken a step back and admitted that he was unlucky and that he had already lowered his posture enough. Unexpectedly, at this time, Pan Rinfeng spoke up. "Wait. What do you think our college is? Come whenever you want. Leave whenever you want. Who will take our college seriously in the future?" Wu Changqing stopped, turned around and said in astonishment, "What else do you want from us? None of you are allowed to leave." Pan Rinfeng pointed at the director of affairs again. "You, call Wu Shimo. Yes, give it to your director. Tell that old guy not to deny it. If he hadn't backed up his brother, would you, the field staff, have nothing better to do than to come to our school and cause trouble? Let the Wu guy come and explain this to me himself." He didn't explain it well. Everyone here. Yes, everyone. What director of the local security bureau? What Wu Changqing? Just prepare to deport you to the surface. As for whether there are other underground cities willing to take you in, that's none of my business. Deporting to the surface? What's the difference between that and expelling you from the city? Wu Changqing jumped up immediately. "A mere college. Does it have such great power?" Pan Rinfeng said nothing. The school security captain sneered and said, "There are supplementary regulations behind Article 127 of the Underground City Security Management Law. If anyone or any group invades the college for improper reasons, it will be regarded as a threat to the safety of the underground city and will be expelled and sent to the surface." Wu Changqing retreated again and again. He never dreamed of it. He originally wanted to ask for an explanation for his son tonight. Unexpectedly, he put himself in such a situation. He suddenly lost his arrogance and was at a loss. People are in the infirmary. When Luo Yan woke up, it was already daytime. He didn't know. Last night, the college detained Wu Changqing and others for him until Wu Shima brought the city lord's secretary and stayed in the principal's office for a long time. Only then did he let the old principal Pan Rinfeng release them. As compensation, Wu Changqing will provide the college with a research fund. This matter is temporarily over. Luo Yang had breakfast in the ward. He saw someone looking furtively outside the door. After the nurse went out, the man came in. It was Shi Haoting from the pharmaceutical development department. He was still the same. He was wearing a pair of round brown glasses. He was wearing flip-flops. He was holding a small golden abacus in his hand. He said with a smile, "Student Luo, how are you?" I have a new medicine that will be very helpful for your injury. You don't want to take the actual combat test like this, do you? Luo Yan said seriously. The doctor said that I can get out of bed in a few days. Is being able to get out of bed the same as being able to do something? Shi Haoting took out a bottle of medicine. The color was like the sea water at night, dark. But from time to time, a dark red light would light up inside. This is a repair agent I just developed, and it has not been named yet. I can guarantee that it is very effective. It can help you quickly repair your body and quickly restore your male virility. No, to recover from your injuries. Anyway, I guarantee that you won't die from taking it. How about it? Try it. Luo Yan did not answer, but asked. Yesterday, Yang Like gave me a box of spark agent, a total of 20 bottles, and said you gave it to me. Shi Haoting nodded. Yes, it was actually true. Luo Yan was a little surprised. He asked again. Didn't you say that you didn't have the materials for the time being? Yes. Shi Haoting put the bottle of repair agent next to the bed, but Yang Lixi, that kid, sent me a batch of materials and gave me some other raw materials, asking me to make those 20 bottles of spark agent. I said, you are friends, right? Luo Yan was really confused. Yang Lixi actually sent materials to Shi Haoting just to make 20 bottles of spark agent for himself. What is he doing? At this time, footsteps were heard in the corridor. Shi Haoting hurriedly said, I'm leaving first. Remember to use your repair agent. It's very useful. Tell me how you feel after using it, and I'll make a record. The reward is 2 bottles of spark agent. After he left, Weni Fenghua came. That was Shi Haoting from the development department just now. Weni Fenghua coughed twice. Why is he here? Do you know him? Luo Yan nodded. Weni Fenghua smiled and said, you'd better not get too close to him. Teacher, she is not a bad person, but people who get too close to him are usually unlucky. He handed the tablet to the bedside. You need to rest these days and can't go to class. I'll bring the information about this practical test. You can take a look at it when you have nothing to do. In addition, your mecha white dragon has been registered. Registered? Luo Yan looked at the instructor in confusion. Weni Fenghua put his handkerchief to his mouth and coughed twice, saying, the driver of each mecha needs to leave a record in the underground city's archives to facilitate data tracking. Of course, it's just a temporary registration now. When you have a mecha that truly belongs to you, the academy will help you register an account in the underground city mecha library. After that, you will be a real mecha master, just like Iheo and the others. After they graduate, the mechas they are currently driving will also leave with them. Luo Yan nodded. He roughly understood what was going on. Then he said, teacher, you said before that the mecha can be upgraded. Then, can the white dragon be upgraded? Weni Fenghua smiled and said, of course. Luo Yan's eyes lit up immediately. What aspects can be upgraded? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 56, Unique Experience. Weni Fenghua smiled and said, you should also know that the level of mechas is the same as visualization and is also divided into junior, middle and senior levels. Above these 3 levels, there are also God Guard and God General levels. Now the upgrades we can make for mechas are actually limited. For the time being, starting with the primary body, it can only be upgraded to the God Guard level at most. Luo Yan raised his eyebrows and said, this upgrade space is already large enough. Weni Fenghua pulled a chair and sat down, first took out a medicine box from his pocket, and took the medicine before continuing. Generally speaking, the lower the level of the body, the greater the upgrade space. Take the primary body as an example. Through weapons, outer armor, energy furnace, engine, super core matrix, etc. all can improve the evaluation of the mecha. Normally, it is easiest and simplest to upgrade the primary machine to the intermediate level. Modifying the outer armor of the body, replacing the heavy weapon level weapons, or making changes to the energy furnace and engine can quickly upgrade to an intermediate machine. In addition, having a supercore matrix is also a way. Information about the supercore matrix flashed through Luo Yan's mind. Teacher Zhao Yiden had talked about this in the Mecha Common Sense class. The fur, scales, and outer armor of the behemoth can be recycled and made into the outer armor of the mecha. The behemoth's horns, thorns, claws, teeth, and other parts that can be used for attack can become the basic materials of weapons. As for the behemoth's core, that special organ that is similar to the heart, but between semi-crystalline and semi-biological, is an important part of the supercore matrix. The supercore matrix can allow the body to have the characteristics of the behemoth to which the core belongs. The supercore matrix itself can be improved by installing the same core. After reaching level 6, special performance can also be activated. However, Zhao Yiden did not say what kind of performance it is, only saying that this is not something that first year students can access. At this time, Wen Fenghua coughed twice and said, "If you want to upgrade the white dragon, then I suggest you load the supercore matrix." Luo Yan was stunned. Wen Fenghua continued, "Originally, to load the supercore matrix, you first need to purchase at least one giant beast core before you can install the most basic supercore matrix. However, you have killed 3 giant beasts, Teoti, Lily and C. According to the regulations of the Giant Beast Strategic House, anyone who kills a giant beast alone will own the corresponding giant beast core. So now, you have the right to use the 3 giant beast cores, whether you use them yourself or sell them to the Giant Beast Strategic House. Because you are still a student, Dzeng will keep the 3 cores for you temporarily. I plan to return them to you after you graduate as your first startup capital to become a mecha master." Luo Yan only then realized that he had saved up his first pot of gold without realizing it. "But I don't recommend you to upgrade now." Wen Fenghua smiled and said, "After all, you are not the master of White Dragon yet. Wait until you have White Dragon before considering this." He stood up and seemed ready to leave. Luo Yan thought of another thing. He called him. "Teacher Wen, I want to know more about natural resonance." Natural resonance. Wen Fenghua nodded, then found a piece of paper and a pen, and wrote down a set of account numbers and passwords. The school database has this information, which is directly connected from the official archives of Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. You can log in with my account. You are a natural resonator, so it's good to learn more about yourself. However, we don't know much about natural resonance. After all, you are not cabbages. In short, there are some examples in it, which have been verified and are real, and can be used as a reference. Wen Fenghua patted Luo Yan's shoulder and left. After Luo Yan rested for a while, he picked up the tablet, and logged into the Academy's database. Logged into Wen Fenghua's account. Searching for relevant information about natural resonators. Just as Wen Fenghua said, there are not many examples of natural resonators recorded in the archives, including Dzeng. In the short decades since people built the first mecha, there have been only a dozen people. However, these natural resonators, including Dzeng, have not mentioned a phenomenon. That is, when resonating with the mecha, you will see some pictures. Luo Yan remembers it very clearly. Whether it is resonating with the White Dragon or driving the Black Thunder, he saw some pictures. In those pictures, the mecha seem to be alive. They also have sadness and joy. There is anger and sadness. If it is said that resonating with the White Dragon may be an illusion, then there is no reason to have hallucinations when resonating with the Black Thunder, right? But if it is not an illusion, how to explain those pictures? This is also the reason why Luo Yan wants to understand natural resonators. He originally thought that he could find the answer. In the end, he was even more confused. However, after reading the information, Luo Yan felt he did not rashly tell others about the images he saw when he was in empathy with the mecha. This was the right thing to do. It is very likely that he is the only one among all the natural empaths who has had such an experience. This is an experience that is unique to him. It is very likely related to some secrets. If others knew about it, Luo Yan was worried that he would be used for research. He did not want to be a guinea pig. In a blink of an eye, it was time to leave the dungeon. Luo Yan drank Shi Haoting's bottle of repair agent and recovered very well. Not only was he able to get out of bed and move around, but he was also able to fight. It was after drinking that bottle of potion that Luo Yan had many erotic dreams, and his impulses in certain aspects were very strong. Shi Haoting claimed that this phenomenon would last for a few days. After hearing this, Luo Yan almost wanted to break his neck. At the same time, he doubted the true purpose of this potion. But no matter what, thanks to Shi Haoting's bottle of repair agent, Luo Yan was finally able to participate in the actual combat test. Early that morning, a convoy carrying 12 mechs and the teachers and students of the college drove out of the college in a mighty manner. We left the underground city of Guangling through the dedicated road out of the city and came to the surface. The students who were traveling for the second time were very excited, except for a few people like Luo Yan. Most of the students were leaning against the car windows, looking at the scenery outside. The dome of Guangling City was installed with 3,600 holographic electronic panels, which could simulate sunrise and sunset, and the 4 seasons of the year. But no matter what, it could not be compared with the real scenery on the surface. Moreover, because of the giant beast, the cities on the surface gradually disappeared, and the natural ecology tended to be primitive. Therefore, the environment on the ground became more beautiful. But this is not necessarily a good thing. Due to the existence of the giant beast and Jiuying, even outside the Forbidden Land, animals and plants are quietly mutating. If it is not stopped, the ecological environment of this planet will eventually change dramatically and become an environment suitable for the survival of giant beasts. Chapter 57, Falcon Base. On the day when Luo Yan and his team left Guangling City, it was still daytime, but there was an inconspicuous car parked in front of a bar. This bar looked small and remote, in a small alley. A sewage canal in the alley exuded a foul smell, and rats were happily going in and out here. I didn't expect Guangling to have such a ghost place. Wu Changqing got out of the dusty car that looked like it was driven by a commoner, covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief, and looked at the surrounding environment with disgust. Then he looked at the assistant. "Are you sure that the person you mentioned can help me solve the problem?" The assistant nodded vigorously. "I asked a lot of people, and there are many professionals among them. They all recommended Jiuying. Besides, this person doesn't just take jobs casually. He seems to be in urgent need of money recently. I agreed to take your commission." Wu Changqing nodded, and then walked into the bar with the assistant. Pushing open the heavy door of the bar, it was surprisingly dim inside. It is not the business hours of the bar. The tables and chairs have not been set up yet. Behind the bar, there was only one bartender wiping the cups. He looked up at Wu Changqing and the other man and said, "Sir, we are not open yet." The assistant walked forward and said in a low voice, "We are looking for Red Dove." "What Red Dove? We don't sell this," the bartender said without raising his head, as if he had endless work to do and endless cups to wipe. The assistant didn't waste time talking to him. He took out a magnetic card, swiped it on the card reader next to him, and then pressed a set of numbers. "Wait." The bartender hurriedly stopped him. He quickly took out his own magnetic card, connected it to the card reader, and then smiled and said, "Okay." The assistant looked at him expressionlessly and pressed OK. Suddenly, the bartender had a work point in his account. He took back the magnetic card, kissed it lightly on the mouth, and then walked out of the counter. "Follow me." Wu Changqing still covered his mouth and nose with a handkerchief, and then followed the bartender with the assistant, and came to a chess and card room. The bartender knocked on the door gently and said, "Mr. Red Dove, the people are here." Someone inside said The bartender pushed open the door. No one was playing cards in the chess and card room. Only a man in a dark red long windbreaker, with his back to the door, was throwing flying knives. Those flying knives, without exception, were nailed to the wall, nailing a big rat. Jiangnan Avenue, Luo Mansion. Luo Xianyi had just returned from the company. As soon as he entered the house, the eldest son Luo Nangxing came over. Luo Xianyi said with a faint smile, "How is that matter going?" Luo Nangxing nodded and said, "Someone has sent the information about Jiuying to the Wu family. Just received the news that Wu Changqing has gone to see Jiuying." Luo Xianyi walked into the study, opened the wine cabinet, took out a bottle of fine wine, poured himself a small half glass, took a sip and said, "Very good. If Jiuying can kill Luo, Dezeng will be hit. If Jiuying fails, Wu Changqing will be in trouble, so we can drag Wu Shimo into the water. Then we can get closer to the Wu family. Wu Shimo is the Minister of Security. At that time, it will be much more convenient for us to do some things. Luo Xianai paused and said softly, also, how is that matter going? After leaving Guangling City, the convoy of Basin Academy drove southwest for 3 days. On the afternoon of the 4th day, Luo Yan, sitting in the car, could vaguely see the outline of a tall building in the distance. It was a city. It was also the venue for this actual combat test. Forbidden Land number 9, Gifa City. Forbidden lands are not necessarily mountainous environments. The formation of forbidden lands is determined by the dominant beasts. Wherever the dominant beasts build their nests, it will evolve into forbidden lands. Mountains, canyons, mountainous areas, plains, basins, highlands, cities, seas, deserts. The areas where forbidden lands are located have a variety of environmental landforms. Luo Yan looked at the silhouette of the city in the distance and recalled the information about Forbidden Land number 9. Gifa City. In this city, strange plants like hair grow everywhere. Those plants will entangle intruders entering the city and parasitize on organisms. Once the parasitism is successful, they can freely control organisms. So in Gifa City, especially in the depths of the city, you will find traces of human and animal life. But that is an illusion. Those humans and animals, including the rats and cockroaches in this city, have been parasitized by Gifa and turned into puppets of those plants. And the one who caused this special ecology is a master of Gifa City. Overlord level beast, Danghu. Detailed information is, code, Danghu. Level, Overlord level 4. Type, feathered insect. Features, shadow control, puppet control, beard weaving, mind reading, soul capture. Weakness, unknown. Although there is no direct evidence, the personnel involved in the investigation of Ghost Hair City have the same guess. Those hair-like plants in the city are probably the beards of Danghu. At this time, the car was bumpy. The car turned a corner. It did not continue to move towards Ghost Hair City. Instead, it went to a ground base 50 to 60 kilometers away from Ghost Hair City. After the giant beast disaster, most cities have become ruins. The surviving humans either moved to the underground cities built in advance early, or like Luo Yan at the beginning, they lingered in the ruins of the city. But some people chose to settle down not far from the forbidden area. So there are various ground bases. These bases are usually controlled by companies. Some of the mechs eliminated by the underground cities and the Behemoth strategic palace have flowed into the hands of various surface companies through various channels. Because they control the mechs, these companies have the conditions to survive on the surface. They set up bases and recruit employees. Every day, they enter the edge of the forbidden area to collect medicinal materials, recycle giant beast parasites, recycle samples of animals and plants in the forbidden area, and record ecological changes in the forbidden area. These bases usually cooperate with one or even several underground cities. And each underground city is usually linked to multiple surface bases. The surface base hopes to obtain mecha spare parts, weapons, medicines and even resources such as supernuclear matrix in the underground city. Through these bases, the underground city can quickly collect ecological data and parasites, animal and plant samples of various forbidden areas. It can be said to be mutually beneficial. The Falcon base that the college convoy is going to now is controlled by the Black Hawk Company. It has 3 mechs, 300 fighters, more than 40 various types of tanks. The boss of the company, Gao Rui, the owner of the Falcon base, has a combat capability of the 5th level. Several of his supervisors have reached the level of the 3rd level of visualization. This is the foundation of a base. Chapter 58, Murderous Intentions Revealed. Students, please listen to me. When Feng Hua's voice rang out in the shaking carriage, the Dean of Studies stood in front of the carriage, holding a microphone and said, "We will stay here overnight. After arriving at the base, you can look around and try not to cause trouble. Every surface base has a very complicated personnel. There are all kinds of people. On the surface, the Falcon base has a cooperative relationship with our Guangling city. But behind the scenes, no one knows which forces they are serving. The surface is different from the underground city. There is no order here. The only thing that can protect you is the gun in your hand and yourself. Soon, Falcon Base arrived. 12 mecha carriers naturally could not drive into the base. Therefore, after completing the procedures, only a few vehicles carrying students entered the base. After entering the base, Luo Yan saw that there were many simple houses built here. The materials were also varied. The most common one was the iron house. After all, they were easy to install and could protect against wind and rain. Except that the temperature in the house was a bit high when it was exposed to the sun during the day. There are almost no other disadvantages. In addition, the buildings in the base are almost unplanned, except for a main road that leads directly to the headquarters building of the Black Hawk Company. The houses and other places are built randomly, thus forming a complex layout. Soon, the school vehicles were parked in a square. In the square, the soldiers of the Black Hawk Company were undergoing training. They were divided into 2 teams. One team was running around the square. The other team was practicing fighting in the center of the square. Although these soldiers lived on the surface, each of them was strong and healthy, and obviously they were treated well. Based on Luo Yan's 3 years of experience living on the surface, these soldiers could at least eat meat every day, and the food quality was good. Otherwise it would be difficult to develop such a physique. Behind the headquarters building of the Black Hawk Company, Luo Yan saw a mecha warehouse. Of course, the warehouse is now closed, and it is unknown what kind of mecha this base has. At this time, each of these students was given a tattered cloak that was either patched or full of holes. Put them on before touring the base. Wen Fenghua said, unless you want to tell the people in the base that you are new. The students were wearing camouflaged combat uniforms, simple armor, and light machine guns. If they entered the base in this outfit, they would definitely attract attention. Luo Yan put on the cloak without saying a word. He squatted down and reached out to grab a handful of sand on the ground. Then he wiped it on his face and hair. All of a sudden, he became dirty. Coupled with his red eyes, he was no different from the residents in the base. When Fenghua nodded secretly, he thought that Luo Yan's experience living on the surface was not comparable to other students. Seeing Luo Yan do this, Zheng Shan followed suit and got himself dirty in a short while. Li Boheng also took off his glasses and copied him. Luo Yan glanced at him, a little surprised. He was not surprised that Zheng Shan could do this. But Li Boheng is not an ordinary family. His uncle is the current city lord Liu Haoteng. Status and position, the same as Luo Bichen, Wu Tijun and other children of wealthy families. Seeing Luo Yan looking at him, Li Boheng smiled and said, this time, I just want to learn how to survive on the surface from you, Luo. Luo Yan did not comment. Soon, when Fenghua went to work on his own, Luo Yan and other students left the square and scattered into various parts of the base to gain more knowledge. It is called a base. In fact, only the square where the headquarters building of the Black Hawk Company is located and the surrounding areas have a bit of the flavor of a base. Other places can be called refugee camps. The base has no walls, only a circle of barbed wire, so the wind and sand are not small. So when walking in the base, the ground is messy, dusty everywhere, and debris and garbage are thrown away at will. This makes the students from Guangling City very uncomfortable. Even for those who come from a grassroots background like Zheng Shan, the area where they live also talks about the 3 guarantees in front of the door. At least the sanitation is acceptable. It's not like here, it's full of smoke. The residents of the base come and go. Just like Wei Fenghua said. There are all kinds of people here. There are skinny homeless people sitting in the corner like dead bodies in tattered clothes. There are also tall and burly mercenaries with tattoos all over their bodies, wearing dirty combat uniforms, and carrying rifles on their backs. There are hawkers riding tricycles with sundries in the cargo box, shouting through the streets and alleys. There are also young women with disheveled clothes and exposed body parts, obviously doing some kind of ancient livelihood. But there is one thing. There are all kinds of people here. There are just no children. Not a single one was seen. Luo Yan probably knew the reason. When he was in Flower City, in the first year, the most deaths were children. After that year, Luo Yan was almost numb to life and death. There are still many hidden shops here. Li Boheng whispered. Zheng Shan said blankly, where are they? Why can't I see them? Li Boheng adjusted his glasses on the bridge of his nose and said, "Look at those doors that are half closed and people come in and out frequently. Almost all of them are shops. Well, it is not ruled out that they are engaged in the flesh trade." After being pointed out by him, Zheng Shan just noticed this phenomenon. As Li Boheng said, "There is a wooden house in front. The door is ajar. Someone just went in. Someone came out." The man pulled down the brim of his hat and walked in the shadows on the roadside. He looked panicked. When Zheng Shan looked at him, he immediately stared back. Under a pair of messy eyebrows, his eyes were ferocious. Luo Yan stared coldly. The murderer saw her was as real as substance. The man lowered his head and turned into an alley. Luo Yan said, "Don't look around here. Sometimes, an inadvertent glance can bring about a fatal disaster." Li Boheng took out a small notebook from his pocket and quickly wrote down what Luo Yan had just said. They walked around for a while and had a general understanding of the base. Just as they were about to go back, there was suddenly a commotion in front. Voices were heard. "Stop, you little thief. Don't run. Damn it." Luo Yan immediately moved to the edge of a nearby tin house to avoid standing in the middle of the road and causing misunderstanding. Zheng Shan and Li Boheng didn't want to cause trouble for themselves. They followed Luo Yan's example and retreated to the edge of the house. In the alley ahead, a petite figure suddenly jumped out. She was actually a pretty girl. She had short hair and wheat-colored skin. She wore a low-cut vest that exposed her belly button. Her waist, which had no excess fat, was slightly stained with sweat. The ultra-short jeans were tightly attached to her perky buttocks, and her slender legs were exposed in the air. She ran towards Luo Yan and the other two in a panic. Behind her, several people quickly chased out. The girl's eyes swam around, searching around. Finally, her sight fell on Luo Yan. Then she shouted, "Catch it, let's run separately." She suddenly threw a black backpack to Luo Yan. In an instant, the two people closest to Luo Yan, Zheng Shan and Li Boheng, suddenly felt that the temperature in the air seemed to drop sharply, almost reaching the freezing point. At this moment, Luo Yan's red eyes reflected the figure of the short-haired girl. In those blood-red eyes, murderous intent was revealed. Chapter 59, Killing God. The short-haired woman's move was obviously to let Luo Yan share the pressure with her and disperse the pursuers. But it also brought unwarranted disaster to Luo Yan. But for the woman, she didn't think she was wrong. In order to survive, she could do anything. What if she diverted the trouble and let innocent people die? The most important thing is to survive. In the past few years, she has done this a lot. She is still alive and well. It has proved that her method is very effective. This is also the fact. The figures chasing after the woman immediately looked at Luo Yan. Running in the front, a man with the strongest physique, messy eyebrows, fierce eyes, and a missing corner of his upper lip immediately shouted, "Don't let her accomplices go." There were already several men rushing towards Luo Yan fiercely. Let's talk about the short-haired woman. After throwing out the backpack, she turned around and rushed to another alley. She wanted to use the intricate terrain here to get rid of the pursuers. But at this moment, she suddenly felt her neck tighten. Her sight dropped. Then she saw that a black rope had appeared on her neck. The rope seemed to be non-physical, slightly transparent and illusory, but it actually tightened her neck. Moreover, the person who threw the rope from behind exerted force suddenly and pulled her back involuntarily. She turned around and saw a pair of red eyes. A sharp light flashed in the pupils. Apart from that, there was nothing else. It was as cold as the ice in the polar regions. The woman had never seen such eyes. Those men who saw her usually had flames of desire. She knew that her body was her capital. Many men could ignore some of the things she did in order to get close to her. Even the men who were chasing after her were the same. Especially the captain. The woman knew that if she was caught, she could use her body to exchange for her life. But in these red eyes now, she could not see a trace of fire. There was only despairing coldness. "Wait. Listen to me. The short-haired woman spoke in a panic. In her sight, she saw Luo Yan's cloak lifted up. In the shadow of the cloak, a blue light bloomed. Everyone felt a flash before their eyes. Luo Yan had passed by the woman. Then they saw that Luo Yan had a long sword in his hand. The long sword was covered with fine blue lines. At this moment, a drop of blood dripped from the blade. With Liu Yan's sword swinging action, the blood drop was thrown to the ground, splashing a red plum. The short-haired woman stopped at this time. She gurgled in her mouth and couldn't speak. She desperately covered her neck with her hands, but she couldn't cover the strands of crimson flowing from her fingers. Her pupils gradually became dilated. As the world spun, she saw a reflection of a person wearing a cloak. The reflection was against the light, and she could see the red in the eyes on her face. It was so red that it was so thrilling. Plop. In the quiet alley, the sound of the woman's body falling to the ground was so loud. As the hands covering her neck slid to the ground powerlessly, people saw that there was a cut on the woman's neck, and blood was pouring out like a spring. A lively woman. But in a moment, she had become a corpse with a temperature still. Liu Yan wiped the long sword-splitting star on his cloak, and then put it back into the sheath. Turning around, he passed by Li Boheng and Zheng Shan. "Let's go," he whispered. At this time, the pursuers woke up from their dreams. The big man with a missing corner of his lip shouted, "Stop. You want to run away after killing someone." At the same time, he was heartbroken. If he wanted to kill someone, this woman would have died 800 times. How could it be Liu Yan's turn? He just liked the body of the short-haired woman. He wanted to catch her and enjoy it. As a result, she was killed by Liu Yan. The big man cursed more than 100 times in his heart. This bastard who doesn't know how to cherish women. Waste God's gift. What a waste of resources. Cursing, he picked up his rifle and approached step by step. The other companions dispersed and formed an encirclement. Li Boheng hurriedly said, "We don't know that woman. We are students. Students from Guangling." The captain sneered, "I don't care where you are from. You are unlucky to encounter such a thing. Tie them up. Break their legs and spare their lives for the time being." He continued, "I know you practice visualization. But, no matter how fast you move, can you be faster than our guns?" After saying that, the captain shot at Liu Yan's legs, trying to cripple this ruthless man's legs first. A volley of bullets, sweeping along the ground. In a blink of an eye, it came near Liu Yan. But it was like hitting an invisible wall. The bullet was embedded in the air. It was difficult to move. Number 5 Mystical Art. Empty wall. And there is more than one side. There are two. Liu Yan, who had his back to the big man, facing the pursuers, Li Boheng. They were all quietly forming seals in their cloaks. "Release the mysterious arts. Shoot. Fire." The captain yelled, but he stepped back. He felt that these young men were not simple. Bang, bang, bang. 7 or 8 rifles pointed at Liu Yan and the other two and fired. But they were all blocked by the 2 empty walls. Instead, innocent residents around were injured by stray bullets and wailed. After the magazine was used up, Liu Yan and his men fought back. Zheng Shan activated his own magic discharge and used the number 1 mysterious art black rope. The black rope he released was attached with high voltage current, which wrapped around a man's neck and immediately electrocuted the man, so that he twitched all over and foamed at the mouth. Li Boheng raised his hands from his cloak. He held a pair of automatic pistols and used precise bursts of fire to make bullet holes in the heads of the big men. Liu Yan ignored the minions. He locked onto the captain with a defective lip. The splitting star flashed. The sword blade burst into countless fragments, like miniature meteors, reflecting the morning sun, creating a rain of light, whistling over the captain's body. The captain's rifle and his hands shattered together. The fragments of the gun and arm fell all over the ground. With the help of the magnetic suction system, the blade fragments returned and reassembled to form the sword body. Wait. Misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. The captain who lost his arm shouted. He no longer had the arrogance just now. His body trembled, and his heart roared. Looking at Liu Yan, who was approaching step by step, like a killing god, he shouted quickly, "I'm from Night Falcon. This bitch stole our giant beast inducer, which is an important material we just got. I was misled by that bitch just now, so I thought you were her companions. I was careless for a moment, and caused this misunderstanding. I apologize to everyone." Liu Yan came in front of him and said in a cold tone, "Night Falcon? From Black Hawk Company? No, but us." The captain just answered when he saw Liu Yan waving the long sword in his hand. Then he saw the sky. The world was spinning in his eyes. Soon, he saw Luo Yan again. And a headless corpse in front of Luo Yan. Chapter 60, Strength Supremacy. Luo Yan put away the splitting star and walked to the woman's body. He searched her body for a while. Finally, he found a black bottle with a silver grey pattern on it. It was a flying bird pattern. The wings were narrow and pointed, the beak was short and wide, and the upper beak was curved with tooth-like protrusions. It was the characteristic of a falcon. Luo Yan put the bottle away. He looked at Li Boheng and Zheng Shan again. The incident just happened suddenly. They responded quickly. Basically, they did not forget the content of the school training. However, they were different from Luo Yan. For them, this was their first time to kill someone. Especially Li Boheng. His shooting skills were like gods. In the school shooting class, the instructor praised him. Within the range, every bullet hit the target. Just now, Li Boheng didn't think too much, and he shot left and right. He killed 6 people. Everyone was shot in the middle of the eyebrows. Headshots killed instantly. But now, he felt uncomfortable. His face turned blue and white. He turned around and retched in the corner. Luo Yan stood by. After the two recovered, he said, "Let's go." They left the alley. As they walked, Li Boheng seemed to ask himself, were we too cruel just now? No one was left alive. Luo Yan kept walking and said indifferently, on the surface, if you are not cruel, you will become a prey. If you want to live longer, you have to sharpen yourself into a cold front. If you don't kill people, others will kill you. Only by killing enough people and making them feel pain can you form a deterrent. At least next time, they will consider the consequences before taking action. Zheng Shan glanced at Luo Yan's not particularly tall and strong figure. Suddenly, he understood something. How did this young man of the same age as himself survive on the surface? After returning to the camp, Li Boheng reported today's events to Wei Fenghua. After Li Boheng finished speaking, Wei Fenghua summoned all the students and informed everyone of what Luo Yan and the other two had done today. Then he said, Luo Yan and the others did a great job. You have not experienced the giant disaster and have not lived on the surface. You still retain the moral values and values shaped by the environment and your education before the disaster. But on the surface, 3 years after the disaster, those moral values and values have all collapsed. Nowadays, what maintains people's social relations? It is force and power. When you walk on the surface, you must understand the principle of power first. Only when you have enough power can you be respected, and you can communicate and exchange with the outside world. Otherwise, you are just fish on the chopping board. The students listened attentively. Among the second-year students, Yang Likai took a breath and whispered to the two followers. Did you hear that? Student Luo took a walk around the base today and killed several people. What a domineering aura. I'm starting to admire him a little bit. At this time, Zhang Heo, who was sitting next to him, gently bumped into Yang Lixi. Boss, your goddess. Yang Lixi turned his head to look. He saw Liu Ruohan not far away, with a light flashing in her eyes and a sweet smile on her lips. She was looking at Luo Yan in the crowd opposite. Yang Lixi said with a sad face, it's over, it's over. With the teacher's promotion, my baby will only be more interested in student Luo. Suddenly, a small stone flew from nowhere and landed on Yang Lixi's shoulder. He raised his head and saw Wei Fenghua looking over here. Yang Lixi quickly put away his smile, sat up straight, and pretended to listen carefully. Wei Fenghua coughed twice before continuing. The actual combat test will begin tomorrow. Everyone should understand the content. Let me briefly repeat it here, in case some students who were distracted in class didn't remember it at all. He deliberately glanced at Yang Lixi and coughed a few more times. He drank some water before saying, the test location is Ghost Hair City. Of course, it is on the edge and a relatively safe area. I have already informed Black Hawk Company. When we are testing, ask them to suspend all operations. So you don't have to worry about being disturbed by the people at the base. Let me talk about the teams. We have a total of 12 mechs. We will draw lots later and divide into 4 teams of 3. In addition to the mecha division, other students will also form a joint combat department with the mecha division through drawing lots. I emphasize again, mecha combat is not a one-person job. It's a collective. The mechs are fighting on the front line, and they need tactical staff, logistical supplies, and engineers to repair them. Therefore, in addition to the mecha division, other students will play the roles of tactical staff, logistics personnel, and maintenance personnel in their respective teams. Don't underestimate the three links of staff, logistics, and maintenance. This is a guarantee that the mecha can fight at full strength on the front line. Therefore, in terms of scoring, not only will I give scores to each team based on their mecha performance, I will also observe the performance of other departments of each team. As for the distribution of rewards, we will use the 7:3 distribution ratio used by the Surface Exploration Corps and even the Giant Beast Strategic Mansion. That is to say, the rewards each group receives, the 3 mecha masters will take 70%, and then further distribution will be made based on their performance. Other departments will take 30%, which will be distributed equally among all personnel. Now, do you have any questions? Xing Feng waited for a moment, and when everyone had no questions, he announced the drawing of lots for grouping. Soon, the grouping of mecha masters had a result. Luo Yan, Li Boheng and Zheng Shan were in Group A of the first year. In addition to them, among the first year students, Lin Cheng, who had a scar on his right cheek, Li Zi, who wore thick glasses, and Shen Yu, who was extremely low-key in the class and had an ordinary appearance, were assigned to the first team. They were Group B. As for the second year students, Group A was Liu Ruohan, Xiaoping, and Chen Dingsheng. Group B was Zai Yun, Wang Lei, and Zhao Feng. After the staff, logistics, engineers and other personnel were divided into groups, Xing Feng asked the 4 teams to hold combat meetings. Luo Yan had no experience in this kind of multi-person cooperation, and presiding over the meeting, he was too lazy to organize it, so he put Li Boheng on the stage. Just as the students began to discuss tomorrow's test enthusiastically, on the 5th floor of the headquarters building of Black Hawk Company, in front of the huge French window, someone stood by the window, looking at the academy camp with flaming fire below. This is a middle-aged man with grey hair combed back. His left eye is blind, and he wears a black eye mask. He wears combat uniforms, military boots, and a holster on his waist, which contains a desert eagle. He holds a goblet. Red liquid is shaking in it. Under the light, a sharp-edged face is reflected on the surface of the cup. He is Black Hawk, the owner of the space. Chapter 61. All we need is the east wind. Black Hawk Jiuying is in his early 50s. He looked at the fire in the student camp below and drank the red wine in the glass. The red wine was obtained from Ghost City. Before the city became a forbidden area, Jiuying lived there for most of his life. He is quite familiar with the city. Otherwise, it would be difficult to quickly collect the first batch of the most critical materials before the base took shape, relying on the advantage of familiarity with the environment, thus laying the foundation for Black Hawk Company. Jiuying looked into the depths of the night, at the tallest building in Ghost City, that is Sky City, the landmark building of the city. One day, I will sit there and drink. Jiuying habitually set a goal for himself. He believes that people must have goals and know what they want. Only then will they not waste time and waste their time. He always feels that he lives more soberly than others. Just like recently, he took a big job. People thought he was crazy. Only he knew what he wanted. Jiuying drank up the wine in his glass and walked to the desk. Besides him, there were 2 others in the office. One was as fat as a meat mountain, with a bald head and densely tattooed scriptures. The other had a donkey face, ugly appearance, fierce eyes, and someone was chewing something in his mouth. These were Jiuying's right-hand men, the 2 most capable action managers under him. The former's name was unknown, and everyone who knew him called him Monk, because he liked to preach to people, especially to the dead. He always smelled of alcohol, and he couldn't eat without meat at every meal. The other one was Donkey Laoc. This was obviously not his real name, but no one cared what his real name was. In the base, a code name was enough. Boss. Donkey Laoc handed Jiuying a cigarette and lit it. Something happened in the base today. The people of Night Falcon were killed. It is said that the murderers were those students downstairs. Jiuying raised his eyebrows. Oh, those flowers in the greenhouse dare to kill people. No wonder they dare to bring them to the surface and go to the forbidden area for actual combat. At this time, the monk said in a muffled voice, "Boss, Night Falcon wants us to give an explanation. They said that, if we don't hand over the murderer, they will find another seller for the batch of goods." Jiuying snorted and said, "Monk, what did you do?" I explained the reason to them. Now they are all in hell to repent. The monk's two eyes, which were squeezed together by flesh, opened slightly. In the gap, a knife-like sharpness flashed. Jiuying nodded. "That's what we should do. It's a serious matter. Night Falcon wanted to hold me back at a critical moment. Such a short-sighted guy deserves to be eliminated." Donkey Laozi lowered his voice again and said, "Boss, Guangling has delivered the stuff. Do you want to take a look in person?" Jiuying said calmly, "No, after so many years, how can I not trust you? In short, everything is ready, only the east wind is missing." Donkey Laozi and the monk looked at each other, and both of them smiled with a fake smile. The next day, the college's convoy was divided into 4 teams and left the base in an orderly manner. While in the car, Luoyan heard the base's broadcast sounded. The following is a notice. From now on, the Falcon base will suspend all matters related to the forbidden area. No individuals or groups are allowed to enter the forbidden area for exploration. For 1 week. If there is any violation, once discovered, they will be expelled immediately and will never be allowed to enter the base again. The broadcast was repeated. Along the way, even through the car window, Luoyan could hear the residents outside complaining. He had lived on the surface before. He could understand the residents' resentment. These people were making a living in the forbidden area. Otherwise, they wouldn't have to live in the Falcon base. Now they are asked not to work for a week. And there is no mention of compensation for losses. It would be strange if they didn't complain. In fact, the academy held a combat test here. Compensation has been given to the hunter base. But whether the Black Hawk Company will issue it is none of the academy's business. Soon, 4 convoys had left the base. Each convoy included 3 mecha carriers, 1 armored command vehicle, 2 logistics vehicles, 2 mecha maintenance vehicles and 8 escort vehicles. Sitting in the vehicle carrying the White Dragon, Luoyan looked out the window at the convoys that were gradually dispersing in the wilderness. He picked up the communicator and said, "Teacher Wei said that in this test, the 4 teams will compete with each other. The team with the highest test score will receive an extra prize. And the test starts from leaving the base. Then why don't we attack other teams? Just paralyze their mobility. Destroy their mechs. Wouldn't it increase our chances of getting first place?" The voices of several tactical staff members rang out in the communicator. "Student Luo, your approach, is a bit wild. This is an academy test. If you have the ability, you should show it in the forbidden area, not use it against your own people. Only Student Luo can think of this approach." But at this time, a voice in the communicator disagreed. "I think Student Luo's opinion can be considered." This was Li Boheng's voice. "It's just that choosing which team to attack requires serious consideration." Suddenly, the communication channel exploded. "Student Li, are you serious? We don't have to be so despicable, right? What honor is there in being first like this?" Just when everyone had no consensus, Zheng Shan's voice rang out in the channel. "Look, the second year team. The compartment of one of their mecha carriers has begun to unfold." Luoyan glanced out the window. Sure enough, not far from their team, in a second year team, the compartment of a carrier was opening. Seeing this, Luoyan decisively jumped up from his position and ran to the mecha storage compartment. He took off his coat while running, revealing the driving suit he had already put on. When he put the Bluetooth communicator on his ear, he heard a mess in the communication channel. "No way. Are the second year students crazy? Are they really going to send out mechas at this time? Which team are they going to deal with? I think you are too nervous. They should have a malfunction." The communication channel was a mess. Obviously these students have not entered the state. Luoyan immediately shouted in the channel with murderous intent, "Shut up if you don't want to die." The channel was silent in an instant. Luoyan continued, "I'm ready to attack now. Bohang, Zhengshan, you two stand by." While speaking, Luoyan has entered the cockpit of the White Dragon. He put on the helmet beside him. Then, with the help of the instrument, He connected the mech's neural wire to the interface driver of the driving suit. Then he pressed the empathy button on the floating point sensor. Through the neural wire, he began to empathize with the mecha. Chapter 62 Orange Cat vs White Dragon. Grade 2, Group A. Yang Likai sat in the armored command vehicle, looking at the various parameters on the computer screen, and biting hard on an apple. Next to him, a classmate who served as a staff officer said with an earphone, "All parameters of the Orange Cat are normal. It can be started. It can be started." Then he took off the communicator and whispered, "Student Liu, you didn't use the original name of the mecha Chengguang, but changed it to Orange Cat. I really don't understand her aesthetics." Yang Lixi glanced at him and said, "If I'll let you understand, she will not be my goddess. The goddess's mind is as deep as the sea. Even I can't guess it." "How can you guess it?" Then he smiled and said in the communication channel, "Student Liu, who are we going to attack this time?" Liu Ruohan's sweet voice sounded in the communication channel. Group A of the first year. Yang Lixi was stunned for a moment, then walked aside and said in a private channel, "Are you sure? Isn't that the group of classmate Luo Yan?" Liu Ruohan said with a nasal sound, "HMM," and then said, "Any questions?" A flash of lightning flashed in Yang Lixi's mind. "I understand. I was being sentimental. The goddess didn't fancy Luo at all. Otherwise, why would she attack the first year Group A?" Yang Lixi was immediately overjoyed. But he still asked carefully, "There is no problem, but I originally thought that you were interested in Luo." Liu Ruohan laughed and said, "I'm quite interested in this junior. Don't you think he is very interesting?" Yang Lixi heard something in his heart breaking, and there was a cracking sound. "Then why are you still attacking the first year Group A? Isn't your target Luo Yan?" At this time, a voice sounded in the armored vehicle, "Orange Cat is out." Yang Lixi looked and saw a large screen, and the cabin of the mecha carrier was completely opened. The bright yellow painted mecha turned over from the car, and the steel fingers covered with nano armor layer pressed into the ground to help the mecha adjust the balance. Then the mecha jumped out like a flexible orange cat and went straight to the first year Group A, where the carrier of White Dragon was. At the same time, Liu Ruohan's voice rang out in Yang Lixi's earphones, "That's because I'm interested in him. So I want to try him out myself. See how good he is. Is he worth my attention?" Suddenly, Yang Lixi screamed in his heart, "No." In an instant, Yang Lixi's mentality almost collapsed. Then all kinds of thoughts came to his mind. Student Liu likes to challenge new things. Maybe she is just interested in Student Luo for a short time. By the way, she has always been at the top of the class in mecha driving. Student Luo is definitely not her opponent. As long as she beats Student Luo, she will lose interest in Student Luo. Isn't my chance here? No. Broken voice. Student Liu has basically never driven a mecha in actual combat. But Student Luo drove mecha in the forbidden area to kill giant beasts. 2 of them. Student Liu won't be his opponent. What should I do then? By the way, I will break up with Student Liu now. As long as I break up fast enough, sadness won't catch up with me. I'm breaking up with him. Student Liu and I have never confirmed our relationship. Yang Likai held his head and fell into endless distress. Outside the armored vehicle, as Orange Cat ran towards the team of Group A of the first year, he fired at the vehicle, where White Dragon was with a rifle, but he deliberately missed the target, causing only large pieces of rubble to explode on the nearby ground. This was already an obvious provocation, so Luo Yan attacked decisively. In the open carrier, the White Dragon rolled down the cabin, turned around on the ground, and then half crouched. Then he saw the bright yellow painted mecha running towards him, and the rifle in his hand was restrained and not pointed at the head of the White Dragon, but fired at the knee of the mecha. Luo Yan controlled the mecha to roll, and then locked the edge of the city of Githa City in the panoramic window. The White Dragon turned around with the help of the rolling action, took a big step, and ran in that direction. The mecha took a huge step, and it had passed the convoy in a flash and left. In the control room, Li Boheng's voice rang out from the communication machine. "Student Luo, we are here to support you." Luo Yan said without any expression, "No need. If you come to support, you may fall into their trap instead." Li Boheng responded quickly, "You mean, the second year students are going to trip us with a mecha?" They can use the remaining 2 to seize the time, to kill the behemoth and win credits. Luo Yan said and then said, don't contact me from now on. After I deal with that mecha, I will go to the gathering place to find you. Li Boheng was also straightforward. Okay. Zheng Shan did not forget to say, old Luo, then you should be careful. After the communication ended, Luo Yan was fully focused, controlling the mecha to step over the bushes and woods in the suburbs of the city. When it was about to hit a building, the white dragon suddenly changed direction and rolled to the left. The 7 or 8 story residential building, at a height of about 5 floors, the outer wall covered with moss and vines suddenly exploded. It was blasted by the bullets of the orange cat behind it, which were comparable to the main gun shells of a warship. Several bullets passed through the floors, shattered the walls and rooms one by one, and finally broke out from the back of the residential building. Going straight ahead, they blew up several residential buildings on the shooting track in half, causing these buildings to collapse with a roar, creating tens of thousands of tons of ground garbage. Hiding behind a building, Luo Yan and the cab of the White Dragon first use the barrier breaking eye to observe the surroundings. Although each mecha is equipped with a giant beast radar, once the energy spectrum of the giant beast is detected, it will alarm. But the scanning range of the radar is not as large as Luo Yan's barrier breaking eye. Through the panoramic window, Luo Yan confirmed that there were no giant beasts around, and then focused his mind on the second year mecha. At this time, he received a communication request. It was sent by the driver of the mecha, but Luo Yan did not receive it. The White Dragon raised the Shenwei rifle, and in the special field of view of the barrier breaking eye, Luo Yan had locked the opponent's mecha. Then he fired at the main engine on the opponent's chest. Bang! A huge gunshot rang out between the buildings, and the windows of the building in front of Luo Yan were shattered. Bullets blasted into the building. Houses, furniture, walls, pillars. Everything was penetrated and shattered, as if it were made of paper. The bullets broke through the building in an instant, and went straight to the chest engine of the orange cat. In the cab of the orange yellow, the girl wearing a combat suit that fit her body like a diving suit, and chewing something in her mouth narrowed her eyes slightly. How rude. But I like it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 63, Mecha Battle. Fierce Battle. As early as when the building exploded, Liu Ruohan had already turned the mech sideways. The mech, originally named Xing, was renamed Orange Cat by Liu Ruohan. It has a flexible shape, and is one of the lighter ones among mechas. It is flexible and agile. It is very suitable for female mech operators. At this moment, under Liu Ruohan's control, he turned around to avoid the attack, and raised his rifle. He ran and shot at the same time. White Dragon also made the same reaction. Neither mech rashly approached the opponent. The two sides opened up their distance, and ran between buildings. The lines of fire shuttled back and forth, constantly exploding and knocking down the buildings and other structures between the two mechas. While attacking, both did not forget to make evasive movements. In contrast, Orange Cat's movements are obviously more flexible and smoother. Although he is a natural resonator, he has not been trained for 3 months. Luo Yan's movements are visibly rough. Many details are not handled well. The range of movement is often too large. He is too unrestrained. He lacks dexterity. He also knew his shortcomings. Therefore, when operating the mecha, he did not forget to run viewing mountains and seas. This filled his whole body with yuan li, and with the help of the empathy system amplification, a layer of brilliance with heavy connotations formed on the surface of the armor of the body. When the bullet rubbed the body, the armor of the White Dragon would emerge with rock-like textures, instantly resisting the impact, leaving the outer armor of the body intact. Luo Yan waited patiently. He knew very well that his marksmanship was far inferior to Li Boheng. It was impossible to paralyze the opponent's mecha with a rifle. And a primary machine like the White Dragon was not equipped with other long-range weapons. I think the opponent's mecha was the same. So Luo Yan was waiting for the opponent to empty the magazine. When there was a lack of firepower suppression, it was the best time to fight in close combat. Soon, the magazine in the Orange Cat rifle had been opened, and the muzzle was muted. The opportunity had come. A strange light flashed in Luo Yan's eyes. The mecha seemed to feel his determination through the empathy system. The energy furnace roared, and all the engines of the mecha were fully powered, allowing the white dragon to sprint at full speed. The silver-white giant passed by a hotel building, and a silver light and shadow were reflected in the windows of the hotel. The mecha crossed the road in front of the hotel in one step. When it stepped on the ground, the concrete road with wild grass and wildflowers collapsed immediately. The huge shock wave made all the nearby car wreckage jump up and shattered the windows of the surrounding buildings. With a strong push, the white dragon jumped into the air, raised his right hand, and an alloy chainsword popped out from the wrist armor. Looking down from a high place, locking the target, the chainsword turned into a flash of electricity, leaving a dazzling trace containing terrible kinetic energy, and struck down like a lightning. Combat skills, thunder. But at this time, the chainsword just came to the top of the Orange Cat's head and was blocked by an invisible barrier. Through the panoramic window, Luo Yan saw that the opponent's bright yellow painted mecha was making hand seals. The empty rifle had been thrown into a corner by it. In the cab of the Orange Cat, Liu Ruohan smiled and said, "It's so easy to guess the behavior of Luo Yan. I knew he wasn't good at shooting, so he must be waiting for me to empty my magazine and then rush up to melee while I'm changing the magazine." Because he guessed this, the Orange Cat threw away his gun as soon as he ran out of bullets, then formed a seal and used the number 5 mystical art, empty wall. However, although the empty wall blocked the thunder, it was also smashed to pieces by the white dragon's sword. So after the Orange Cat used the empty wall, he quickly formed a seal again. This time, chains condensed by elemental force rose from the ground, locking the white dragon's limbs for a second control. Number 3 mystical art, binding lock. Then the Orange Cat took another big step to distance himself, and while the machine was still sliding on the road, he formed a seal for the third time. Suddenly, a phantom giant wolf appeared at the height of the mecha's knees. It was the number 10 mystical art, Phantom Wolf. On the other side, as soon as Luo Yan was controlled by the Yuanli chain, he immediately used the chainsword to cut the chain. But at this time, a phantom wolf had already pounced over. Moreover, the mecha on the opposite side was still forming seals. It seemed that the driver inside seemed to be the same as Wu Tijin. They were all fans of Zuanshu. As the phantom wolf pounced over, the ground under the feet of the white dragon also shook violently. Then, stone cones with thick bottoms and sharp tops stabbed up. Luo Yan had already controlled the mecha to retreat, but these stone cones still rubbed against his legs, causing friction with the Yuanli defense layer distributed on the outer armor. The Yuanli brilliance dimmed a little. This is the 11th Zuanshu, rock cone. Although the rock cone did not pierce the body, the chaotic stone cone stuck the white dragon. When the white dragon was rubbed by the rock cone, the phantom wolf had already jumped onto the mecha. The illusion wolf opened its mouth and bit the mecha's neck, trying to bite it off. At this time, the Orange Cat did not continue to use the mysterious arts, but opened the outer armor of both arms. In the armor of the upper arms on both sides, an orange short sword was sent out by the mechanical arm. After holding the 2 short blades, the Orange Cat leaned forward, and his upper body was almost parallel to the ground. This lightweight mech was as fast as lightning, like a cheetah, that had locked onto its target, and rushed towards the white dragon, that was stuck by the stone cone, and entangled by the illusion wolf, and could not move. The previous series of mysterious arts were all preparations. Liu Ruohan's winning hand. It was also a close combat. But when it was less than 10 meters away from the white dragon, the Orange Cat suddenly stopped and moved sideways. At the same time, the white dragon suddenly burst into a fluctuation of Yuanli. The visible Yuanli light burst out and rose, stirring up a clamor, and the momentum was terrifying. It was Luo Yan who used the secret method, Kaon Wheel. At the moment of the explosion, White Dragon swung his chain sword. Suddenly, thunders ran like dragons and snakes, covering a huge fan-shaped area in front of the mecha. The illusion wolf that jumped on the mecha, the stone cones that stuck White Dragon's apostrophe feet, the concrete road in front, covered with moss and plants, the rusted car wreckage, etc. all collapsed in this dazzling lightning. Thunder. 10,000 times. A combat skill that can only be used in the state of KO and wheel. The power is amazing. It directly turned a fan-shaped area of more than 500 meters in front of the body into a GD. Even though Liu Ruohan had guessed that Luo Yan would explode. Even though Orange Cat had made evasive moves in advance. But it was still swept by a flash of lightning. The outer armor of Orange Cat was suddenly charred and even fell off. Fortunately, it was only a minor injury. It did not prevent it from rolling twice on the road, crashing into a building, and breaking out of the building. When the building was about to collapse, the Orange Cat had already caught the weak moment after Luo Yan's explosion. Close to the White Dragon, the two short swords outlined a phantom like a gentle night rain, entangled with the body of the White Dragon. This is Liu Ruohan's fighting skill. Night rain. PS. Another day of 10,000. Can it be exchanged for your precious vote? Chapter 64. Headbutt. Grade 2. Grade A in the armored command vehicle. Seeing on the big screen, the Orange Cat suppressed the White Dragon and used her swords to launch dazzling attacks. Yang Lixi excitedly shouted, "Well done." The classmates in the car were startled by him. Yang Lixi hugged a classmate's neck and said happily, "Classmate Liu is really great." Using a series of mysterious arts to pave the way, just for this moment of explosion. And just now, she obviously predicted classmate Luo's tactics. Evaded in advance. She restrained classmate Luo to death. The classmate was almost dying from being hugged by him. Fortunately, Yang Lixi let go, so he saved his life. The classmates in the car looked at Yang Lixi speechlessly, thinking that Liu Ruohan won. This guy was happier than the real owner. Of course Yang Lixi was happy. If Luo Yan lost here, Liu Ruohan would no longer be interested in him. Wouldn't his chance come? Thinking of this, Yang Lixi said in his heart, "Student Luo, just surrender. Just consider it as doing me a favor. Just lose to student Liu once. I will definitely repay you well." In the edge city of Ghost City, the body of White Dragon kept jumping. In just a short moment, this mecha had no idea how many attacks it had endured. The only defense layer on the surface of the mecha that protected the outer armor and the body was disappearing rapidly. Liu Ruohan's combat skill Night Rain can decompose the physical or energy level defense with delicate techniques. Once the defense is lifted, an undefended mecha will fall apart in an instant under her double swords. But at this moment, White Dragon did not retreat but advanced. He took on the attack of Orange Cat and pressed forward from the front. He opened his arms and hugged Orange Cat tightly. Then, he lifted the enemy body that was lighter than himself off the ground with force. In the cockpit, under the effect of the empathy system, Liu Ruohan felt the same as the mecha. She only felt Luo Yan hugging her tightly from the front. The strong sense of aggression made her heart beat fast and her mind went blank. At this time, in the panoramic window, she saw the head of the White Dragon leaning back. The next second, the head of the other machine expanded rapidly in the panoramic window. Wait. Liu Ruohan's voice fell. There was a roar in her ears. It turned out that the White Dragon had hit her with a headbutt. The picture in the panoramic window flickered. Liu Ruohan was even more dizzy. At this time, the White Dragon raised his head again. The second headbutt had hit it. In the armored car of the second year group A, the students were stunned, watching the screen. White Dragon hit the Orange Cat with one headbutt after another with the moves of a street gangster fighting. After 5 or 6 times, an alarm sounded in the armored car. A student took a look and shouted, "The sympathetic system of the Orange Cat has been disconnected, and Liu's signal has gone offline. Is she fainted?" Yang Lixi's mind buzzed. He looked at the screen in despair. He saw on the screen that the White Dragon had stopped attacking. Because the head of the Orange Cat had fallen to one side, it was obvious that the driver inside had lost consciousness. No. Yang Lixi held his head and screamed. It was like the end of the world. His classmates looked at him sideways. Then they started to talk. Yang's emotions are so rich. That's right. Liu is happier than anyone else that he won. He is sadder than anyone else that Liu is fainted now. This is also a state of mind. But the next second, Yang Lixi raised his head and then laughed. He shouted inexplicably, "Good. Great." Yang Lixi didn't care that the classmates in the car looked at him like a lunatic. He only thought of one thing. The way Luo Yan defeated Liu Ruohan was too rude. Through this incident, Liu Ruohan must have realized that she and Luo Yan were from two different worlds. They were like two parallel lines. There would be no time for them to intersect. Compared to Luo Yan, Yang Lixi's world was closer to Liu Ruohan. Isn't this the opportunity? Haha. Thank you so much, Luo Yan. Thank you for defeating Liu in this way. Yang will definitely reward you handsomely later. In the city, Luo Yan let go of his hand and let the orange cat mecha lie on the ground. But he didn't leave. He used the chainsword to carefully cut off the joints of the orange cat mecha. Then he removed the outer armor of the orange cat. The whole process was very careful, as if he was taking off the clothes of a woman. In the cab, Liu Ruohan groaned and woke up. Then she saw Luo Yan busy on her mecha. She didn't react for a while. Then she saw that the white dragon stood up, holding an energy furnace in both hands, and was pulling out the plug wires one by one. Liu Ruohan's mind was blank. This can't be the energy furnace of the orange cat. What is he doing? Why did he take my energy furnace? At this time, because the energy furnace was taken away, the body lost its energy supply. The instruments in the cab stopped working one after another. Even the lights went out one by one. After a while, a red light came on. This is the backup battery of the body working. But it can only provide the body with power to open the cab, or allow the mecha operator to escape in an emergency. Unable to fight, Liu Ruohan could only unplug the neuron plug, open the cab, and walk out of the mecha. Standing on the head of the mecha, she watched White Dragon holding the energy furnace of the orange cat in one hand, and running away quickly. Then, Liu Ruohan saw the orange cat with all its joints destroyed, and suddenly felt like vomiting blood. That guy did it too much. Destroyed the joints of the orange cat, and paralyzed the function, and took away the energy furnace. This is not going to let me participate in actual combat. Suddenly, the girl who took off her helmet snorted. He doesn't seem that interesting anymore. Falcon base. Wei Fenghua, who stayed at the base, watched the entire battle between Luo Yan and Liu Ruohan through the footage captured by the drone. He coughed twice, looked at the orange cat that was almost torn apart, and smiled imperceptibly. Then he looked at the judges behind him. Everyone, what do you think of the performance of both sides in this battle? A middle-aged man with sparse hair, who obviously had few hairs on his head, but still stubbornly covered his forehead with a tuft of hair, said. Second-year student Liu has a good grasp of the rhythm of the entire battle. She has obviously figured out the fighting rules of student Luo Yan in the early and middle stages, and even in the close combat that determines the outcome in the late stages. Her performance is remarkable, but it's a pity she ultimately lost because of her experience. When you can't paralyze the target's mobility within 1 or 2 seconds, you should withdraw and regroup. But she was eager to win, and Luo took advantage of her. In the end, she won in a rough way. In my opinion, these two students are very good. As soon as the voice fell, someone sneered. Excellent. Is that student Luo fighting? Is he a hooligan fighting? Isn't he fighting like a gangster? I've never heard of a mecha master who uses a headbutt to decide the outcome in a battle. Chapter 65 Weird Hair. The one who objected and sneered was Huang Yang, the first-year student's mentor who had taught Luo Bichen. He was holding a grudge against Luo Bichen's defeat and death. Just now, when he saw his colleagues praising Luo Yan, he could no longer hold it back. He really wanted to vent his anger. The middle-aged teacher with a touching amount of hair glanced at Huang Yang and said, "What's wrong with the headbutt? It doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it can catch mice. It's a good cat." Teacher Huang, as teachers, we should have fewer prejudices against students. We should look at students from a fair and just perspective, so that we can be more objective. Someone nodded and said, Teacher Ziguangao is right. Isn't it normal that every new tactic is unprecedented before it is released? I think Luo Yan's brain is very quick. He knows how to adapt to local conditions and respond flexibly. He is a good candidate for a mecha master. Other teachers also echoed. Huang Yang saw this and snorted. People with different ideals cannot work together. After saying that, he left. The teacher surnamed Z snorted. Teacher Huang's temper is too extreme. Someone whispered, he is not only extreme, but also stingy, even worse than women. When Feng Hu had coughed dryly, focusing everyone's attention on him. The dean said, since everyone thinks that Luo Yan's performance is good, then here, let's give him, and the first year group A credit. The teachers nodded one after another. Then, on a large screen not far from them, the first year group A silently rose one place and temporarily ranked first among the 4 teams. Huang Yang was still cursing when he walked out of the tent. Suddenly, he felt something in his heart, raised his head, and saw a mountain of meat blocking his way. The supervisor of the Black Hawk Company, Monk, narrowed his eyes into a slit and said with a smile on his fat face, Teacher Huang, do you have time? Our boss wants to treat you to a meal. Second year group A in the temporary assembly point. The paralyzed orange cat who could not move on his own was pulled back. When the maintenance personnel saw the broken mecha, they all shook their heads and sighed. There are replaceable joint parts in the maintenance vehicle, and if we hurry, we can roughly repair it at night. But the most fatal problem of the orange cat is that Luo Yan took away the energy furnace. Without the energy furnace, the orange cat is just a pile of scrap metal. There is no spare energy furnace in the maintenance vehicle. On the other side, Yang Lixi saw his goddess getting off the mecha carrier. Her face was gloomy, although there was nothing on the surface. But she kept making small movements. According to Yang Lixi's understanding of her, Liu Ruohan is now in a very irritable mood. Seeing this, Yang Lixi felt that the sky was clearing up after the rain. In his heart, he thanked Luo Yan again for his ruthless destruction of flowers. Then he trotted over and handed over a drink that supplemented various trace element of the human body. Student Liu, you have worked hard. Liu Ruohan glanced at him, did not refuse, took the drink and thanked him. Hearing the word thank you from the goddess mouth, Yang Lixi was overjoyed. He has known Liu Ruohan for almost 2 years. Every time he gave her something, no matter how expensive the gift was, it was rejected most of the time. As for the thank you, it was the first time ever. This made Yang Lixi more certain that the goddess must have discovered his good points. She was finally moved by him, so her attitude began to change. At this time, the other 2 mecha masters also came. Sheng, who had a short flat head, did not approach, but shouted, Student Liu, what did you do? Even the energy furnace was dismantled by them. Now the orange cat is scrapped. The test has not even started yet, and our group has lost a mecha. Tell me, what should we do next? Yang Lixi immediately protected the flower. Pointing at the small flat-headed man, he shouted, Mr. Chen, are you a man? Why can't we test the 2 mechas? Why, you won't allow friendly machines to malfunction when you're on the battlefield in the future? You don't even have the ability to deal with this. I advise you to stop being a mecha master as soon as possible. It's embarrassing. Sheng was immediately furious and pointed at Yang Lixi and shouted, you're not even a mecha master, why are you interfering? The good guys Aoping next to him stopped Sheng and said, we are all classmates, don't be angry, and talk it out. Yang Lixi wanted to be sarcastic to Mr. Chen, but a figure flashed in front of him, and he saw the goddess striding forward. She bowed to Sheng and Aoping. I'm very sorry. I was indeed too willful this time. I thought I could easily control the opponent, so I didn't consider the consequences. It put our team in a passive situation. Yang Lixi was stunned. The goddess actually apologized. Am I seeing right? Such a proud person. She actually apologized, and she apologized to a nobody like Sheng. Not to mention Yang Lixi. Sheng and Aoping were also stunned, because they knew that Liu Ruohan was not an ordinary girl. Her family background was on the same level as Yang Lixi, Wu Tijin and other young masters. Unexpectedly, someone as high and mighty as she was would take the initiative to admit her mistakes. For a moment, Sheng was speechless. Liu Ruohan raised her head and said, maybe there will be an energy furnace at the Black Hawk base. I will contact the teacher now to see if she can help us get one. I will pay for it myself. I will try my best to make up for my mistakes and try not to hold everyone back. Okay. Sheng couldn't get angry at this time. Yang Lixi seized the opportunity and said, "Student Liu, go and have a rest. Leave it to me." Without saying anything, he took out the special communication machine for contacting the instructor and started to operate it. Woo. The wind started to blow. It was sunny just now. Suddenly, it turned sunny and cloudy. The sky became gloomy, the clouds gradually turned grey and black, and a heavy and oppressive atmosphere enveloped the earth. It permeated the city. Luo Yan drove the mecha white dragon to the gathering place. Walking in the ghost hair city, through the panoramic window, Luo Yan saw a piece of broken walls and ruins. The degree of damage to the buildings here is far better than the area where he fought with the orange cat. The building is basically only a frame, and the road has long been buried by rubble. In the wreckage of the car, under the rubble, and on the tilted street lamps, you can see corpses that are only bones. There are patches of black marks everywhere on the ground, on the car wreckage, and on the walls. They are like the marks of coagulated blood. How much blood would it take to paint the city like this? In addition to these dilapidated scenes, the most eye-catching thing is the long and dense black hair. These long black hairs are hugged together, wrapped around lampposts, hanging from the treetops, pouring out from the doors of buildings or windows, and hanging on wires or towers. When the wind blows, the black hair will float in the air. From a distance, it looks like black waves that sometimes rise and sometimes fall. Chapter 66, Windfall. Looking at those strange hairs, Luo Yan did not stop and left at a faster speed. Not long after, he met up with Li Boheng and others. White Dragon knelt on one knee in an open space and put the energy furnace snatched from Orange Cat on the ground. Seeing Luo Yan snatch an energy furnace, including Li Boheng, the whole team was dumbfounded. Who would have thought? Luo Yan not only defeated Orange Cat, but also dismantled the energy furnace on his mecha and took it away. This clearly shows that he does not want him to participate in the test. Leaving the mecha cockpit and coming to the ground, Li Boheng said, "A sophomore is looking for you." Luo Yan cast an inquiring look. "It's Yang Lixi. He said he wants to discuss something with you." Li Boheng threw a communicator to him. "He's online now." The figure of Yang Lixi flashed through Luo Yan's mind. After hesitating for a moment, he still said hello on the communicator. He wanted to hear what Yang Lixi said. Unexpectedly, he just spoke. Yang Lixi yelled into the communicator, "Idle. You're back. I couldn't contact your mecha, so I had to contact your teammates. How about we have a discussion?" Luo Yan said expressionlessly. "What to discuss?" Yang Lixi got straight to the point. "Didn't you steal the energy furnace of one of our mechas? Is it with you?" Luo Yan looked at the energy furnace not far away and didn't say anything. Yang Lixi continued, "You definitely didn't lose it." "That's right. I want to redeem it." "Redeem it?" Luo Yan didn't follow Yang Lixi's train of thought for a while. Yang Lixi laughed dryly and said, "My goddess, hey, classmate Liu Ruohan is unwilling to give up the test just like that. She wants to get an energy furnace from the Black Hawk Company. I just contacted the base, and they do have a decent model of energy furnace that can be barely used. But in terms of performance, it's not as good as the one you have. So I want to negotiate with you to redeem it." The base has an old model energy furnace on hand, and they are asking for 350,000 work points, or materials of equivalent value. The one you have on hand, I want to see if you can sell it to me at a lower price. 500,000. Anyway, you have no use for more energy furnaces, right? It's better to sell it and make money, don't you think? 500,000 work points. A strange light flashed in Luo Yan's red eyes. He remembered what Wei Fenghua said. If you perform well in this test, the mecha pilot can keep the mecha he drives. But the maintenance and upgrade costs of the mecha, in addition to the school subsidizing part, the rest needs to be found by himself. Although Wei Fenghua also said that once a student can keep the mecha, he will get attention. Some people are rushing to sponsor. At least the usual maintenance costs are not a problem. But there is still the headache of the upgrade cost. Moreover, Luo Yan doesn't like being sponsored, because that way he will have less say. Now he heard that Yang Lixi wanted to use 500,000 to redeem the mecha energy furnace. Luo Yan was tempted. Just like Yang Lixi said, it's useless for him to have an extra energy furnace. After the test is over, it will most likely be returned. It's better to cash it in now. Moreover, the test time is 1 week. After the energy furnace is redeemed, you can grab it again. After thinking this through, Luo Yan picked up the communicator and said, okay, but the price should be raised a little bit. 700,000 work points is more reasonable. There was silence on the other end of the communicator, and then Yang Lixi said, okay, 700,000 is 700,000. I also want to make friends with you, classmate Luo. 700,000. How do we trade? Luo Yan thought for a while and said, you transfer the money first. After receiving the work points, you give me a coordinate and I will have someone send the energy furnace over. Okay. Yang Lixi agreed very straightforwardly. Not long after, Luo Yan's student card had 700,000 work points credited to his account. With the previous reward from the Land Conservation Bureau, he now has 710,000 work points. Then after receiving the coordinates sent by Yang Lixi, Luo Yan found 2 classmates. Each of them paid 1,000 work points and asked them to send the energy furnace to the designated location. After doing all this, Li Boheng and Zheng Shan came over. Classmate Luo, I think we should build a camp before hunting the giant beast. What do you think? Luo Yan nodded. The teacher in the tactics class also talked about this. When entering the forbidden area to fight, you need to set up a camp first. After all, the personnel of the tactics class, logistics department, and maintenance department cannot move with the mecha in the forbidden area. They need a fixed and safe place to start their work. Luo Yan said, what do you think? Li Boheng took out a tablet with a map of Gifa City on it. This city was originally a prefecture level city with a permanent population of about 5 million and complete urban supporting facilities. There are airports and high-speed rail stations in the suburbs. Look here. Li Boheng pointed to a location on the screen. The suburban high-speed rail station is not far from where we are now. It is connected to the city by only one highway. This is conducive to defense. In addition, since the high-speed rail station is located in the suburbs, it is on the edge of the forbidden area. Once attacked, we can also evacuate quickly. Also, the waiting hall of the high-speed rail station can be used for various purposes. Setting up a command center, material warehouse, and personnel rest can all be carried out in it. What do you think? Luo Yan nodded. Li Boheng considered it very comprehensively and in detail. He couldn't find a reason to object. So he said, let's go to the high-speed railway station now. When they arrived at the high-speed railway station, it started to rain. The rain was not heavy. However, there were flashes of lightning and the dark clouds in the distance. It looked like there would be a heavy rain soon. The high-speed railway station, which was once very lively, was no longer noisy. There were more corpses to be seen here. They were all corpses without flesh and blood, only bones. It seemed that, when the giant disaster came, a large number of people flocked to the high-speed railway station, causing a large number of casualties. There were traces of destruction by the giant beasts here. Several high-speed trains were deformed and overturned. Looking into the deformed carriages, the corpses inside were almost piled into a small mountain. The carriages of one train were violently dismantled and abandoned in the entrance square of the high-speed railway station. The convoy's pioneering car drove into the square and pushed all the corpses, carriages or rather obstacles to the left and right. In the mecha carrier, silver dots appeared around Luo Yan's red eyes. The station square, the waiting hall, and even the various things in sight. In Luo Yan's barrier-breaking Dharma eye, everything became transparent, with only lines outlining the structure. In this field of vision, he soon discovered that on the 3rd and 4th floors of the waiting hall, there were clusters of grey light flashing. No matter how you look at the outlines of those lights, they don't look like humans. Chapter 67. Colorful Winged Lice. Attention. Luo Yan picked up the communicator and said in the public channel, there are giant parasites on the 3rd and 4th floors of the waiting hall. Zheng Shan's voice suddenly rang out. There are giant parasites in this damn place. What are these bugs hiding here for? Luo Yan didn't know what these parasites were for, but he knew that they needed to be cleared. Otherwise this place could not be used as a camp. If he drove the mecha to shoot at the waiting hall to save trouble, the waiting hall would be destroyed. And the noise would be too loud, which would expose the location of the camp. Whether it attracted giant beasts or attracted the attention of other teams, it would be more trouble than gain. So in the end, there was only one way left. Luo Yan picked up the communicator and said, "Li Boheng, we will each take a team of people to clean up the parasites on those 2 floors." Okay. Li Boheng agreed. A moment later, Luo Yan and Li Boheng each led a team of students into the waiting hall. Zheng Shan started his mecha just in case. In the waiting hall, the light was dim, and the hall, which had been without electricity for a long time, seemed extremely silent. The facilities in the hall were basically destroyed, from the large screen displaying train information to the seats on the ground for passengers to rest. All of them turned into waste and garbage. There were countless corpses here as well. One here and one there. At each ticket gate, the corpses were piled up like a mountain. On the ground, newspapers, magazines, suitcases, clothes, shoes, daily necessities, cosmetics, mobile phones, laptops, tablets, etc. The sundries were thrown all over the ground, filled with a sense of desolation and decay. Luo Yan, who had lived on the surface for 3 years, was fine. The other students, including Li Boheng, looked very ugly when they saw so many corpses. Several of the students even covered their mouths with their hands and kept retching. Fortunately, these corpses had been dead for a long time. The flesh and blood had all rotted away. Otherwise, the waiting hall would not only be depressing, but the air would also be filled with a disgusting smell. The 2 teams carefully walked among the corpses, fearing that they would make any noise and attract the attention of the parasites swarm above. Luo Yang had been keeping his barrier-breaking eye open, keeping an eye on the parasite swarm above. Just then, someone accidentally stepped on a can, and a clang sounded, echoing in the quiet hall. Fortunately, at this time, thunder sounded outside, covering up the sound of the can in time. Luo Yan looked at the student fiercely. The student shrank his head and dared not look Luo Yan in the eye. "Be careful," Luo Yan warned him, then gestured and separated from Li Boheng's team. The 2 teams explored upwards from different stairs. When they reached the 3rd floor, Luo Yan led the team deeper. Soon, in the waiting hall on the 3rd floor, some puppy-sized parasites were seen. These insects were attached to pillars, human corpses, and walls. They were motionless. They had pointed heads and round bellies, smooth dorsal plates, and 3 pairs of insect limbs at the front of their bodies. They slightly opened several wings as thin as cicada wings, but those wings were colorful and very dreamy. If it weren't for the grey light representing living things that appeared in Luo Yan's vision, and the circle of bloody light next to the grey light, Luo Yan would have thought that the insects were dead. The fact is that every once in a while, the heads of the insects will turn 180 degrees. When they turn around, Luo Yan can clearly see that there is a human face on the heads of those insects. But these are obviously not the common parasites human-faced mites in Flower City. Instead, they are feather lice that often appear on giant beasts such as feather insects. At this time, Li Boheng's voice sounded on the communicator in his ear. "Everyone be careful, this is a colorful winged lice. They fly quickly, and during the flight, their wings will sprinkle colored powder. Those powders are neurotoxins, which will make the creatures unable to move, but they will not die. But then, you will become their food. You can still keep it for a long time. Colorful wing lice are afraid of fire, so you can use flames to deal with them. However, if they sprinkle too much powder, you must be careful to cause a dust explosion." Dust explosion? Luo Yan looked around and soon saw a row of closed windows. Next, he and Li Boheng developed a simple battle plan. While waiting for Li Boheng's team to arrive, Luo Yan used the barrier-breaking eye to mark the number and location of parasites on this floor. He shared it with his team members. Soon, Li Boheng's team was already in place. The 2 captains timed and counted down, and the last 3 and 4 floors of gunfire sounded at the same time. Parasite cleaning operation. Start. As soon as the battle started, in Luo Yan's team, 2 snipers, based on the information provided by Luo Yan, prioritized clearing out several parasites in the distance. Those colorful winged lice that were either attached to pillars or lying on corpses had not reacted before their heads exploded into paste, along with the things they were attached to. Several students around Luo Yan aimed at some parasites that were closer, using the continuous shooting mode to shoot the insects into sieves. Luo Yan also fired. However, he aimed at the windows on this floor. Bang 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 bang. Amid the powerful gunshots, the windows exploded one after another. At that time, a strong wind was blowing outside. When the existing airflow rushed in, the indoor air was kept circulating, thus reducing the probability of dust explosion. After humans took the lead in killing some parasites, the remaining colorful wing lice had already flapped their wings and flew up. Just as Li Boheng said, these insects were very fast. Luo Yang couldn't see their movements clearly. He could only catch a blurry shadow. While flying at high speed, the wings of the colorful wing lice sprinkled pieces of colorful powder. They intertwined a gorgeous and dreamy mist in the air. But this was a deadly poisonous mist. However, Luo Yan and others were prepared. When they heard the sound of the parasites flapping their wings, 2 students had already formed seals with their hands. Use the number 3 mysterious technique, empty wall. Then an invisible barrier appeared in front of Luo Yan's team. The poisonous powder sprinkled by the colorful wing lice was isolated outside the invisible barrier. This allowed the students inside the barrier to shoot at the flying parasites without any worries. Although those things flew fast, they could not escape the crossfire and soon fell one by one. The parasites on the 3rd floor were about to be cleared. Suddenly, Luo Yan heard Li Boheng's exclamation, "Oh no," they flew into the vent. The next second, on the 3rd floor of the waiting hall, behind Luo Yan's team, a vent fence suddenly fell down. Then a buzzing sound was heard inside. One by one, the colorful winged lice flew out and quickly pounced on the students on the ground. Chapter 68, Battle Plan Against Guho Bird. As soon as a student turned around, his vision was filled with the figure of the colorful winged louse. He clearly saw the colored powder sprinkled by the flying insect on him, the layers of folds on the flying insect, and the 3 pairs of bristly legs coming towards him. The student wanted to dodge. Suddenly, he felt that his body was out of control. He watched the colorful winged louse grab his face, and then his mouth was pried open, and some organ on the parasite was forced into his mouth, and then went down his esophagus into his stomach. For a moment, the student's heart was beating with fear, and his eyes bulged, as if they were about to fall out of their sockets. Zheng Junlin was attacked by a parasite. The students exclaimed. But they didn't know what to do. If they fired a gun, they didn't have the confidence that they could hit the insect without hurting their classmates. At this moment, the student saw a shadow flash by. Luo Yan. He whistled past the student named Zheng Junlin. At the same time, a dazzling blue light was brought up. The splitting star swept across the round abdomen of the flying insect, opened the entire abdominal cavity horizontally, and let the internal organs fall down like a waterfall. At the same time, there was an organ-like intestines wrapped around the tip of the sword. Luo Yan picked it out of Zheng Junlin's mouth. "Inject him with the antidote," Luo Yan said quickly, and then chopped off the parasites flying towards him with another sword. At this time, a thin student screamed, broke away from the team, and wanted to escape. Seeing this, Luo Yan raised his rifle and fired a burst of bullets at his feet. He was so scared that he turned pale and collapsed on the ground. Luo Yan's red eyes flashed with murderous intent, deserting in the face of the enemy. Kill. No one would think that Luo Yan was joking. After all, he killed people in the Falcon base yesterday. And not long ago, Wu Tijun, Luo Bichen and others died in his hands. The students believed that Luo Yan would not blink when he wanted to kill someone. Turning the muzzle of the gun, Luo Yan shot at the flying insects. A fight broke out. Finally, the battle was over before the rain got heavier. The 2 teams killed nearly 50 colorful wing lice on the upper and lower floors. Except for Zheng Junlin and 2 other students who were poisoned, the others were basically not injured. After the parasites were cleared, the students entered the waiting hall and divided into several teams under the command of Li Boheng to clear the bodies in the hall on the 1st floor. In order to clear the open space for the command center, material warehouse, maintenance workshop and rest area, the heavy rain lasted for more than an hour before it ended. After the rain stopped, the engineering team became busy. They buried some things that looked like oil drums on the road connecting the high-speed rail station to the city. These oil drums are anti-behemoth mines, which will only explode when a behemoth steps on them. Normally, other vehicles passing by will not detonate the mines because of their light weight. But if a mecha carrier vehicle is going to pass by, it is necessary to turn off the sensing device of the mine first. Just when the engineering team was laying out the minefield for the camp and setting up the defense line, Luo Yan, Zheng Shan, Li Boheng, and members of the tactical team held an emergency meeting in the command center that had been set up. The image of the colorful winged lice appeared on the screen of the command center. A student who served as a tactical advisor said, according to historical records, colorful wing lice are parasites on the feathered insect giant beast Guho bird. Our tactical team unanimously agreed after discussion. There must be a Guho bird nearby. However, considering the activity radius of the Guho bird, I'm afraid the so-called nearby is frighteningly large. Li Boheng nodded and said, due to their habits, the activity radius of feathered insect giant beasts is usually larger than that of other types of giant beasts. Take Dang Hu, the owner of this forbidden area, for example. Strictly speaking, the entire Gifa city is within its activity range. A short-haired girl twirled a ballpoint pen between her fingers and said, there are records about the Guho bird in the Zhuangzi. It is said to fly at night and hide during the day, probably a type of ghost or god. The one with fur is a bird, and the one without fur is a woman. One is called the Heavenly Emperor Girl, one is the Night Traveler Girl, one is the Starfishing, and one is the Hidden Flying Bird. The giant beast Guho bird also has similar habits. It always appears at night, and likes to feed on human children. According to records, there are a lot of cases of Guho birds preying on human children during the giant beast disaster. Perhaps, we can take advantage of its habit. Lure it to the battlefield we designate. The image of Teoti flashed through Luo Yan's mind. He raised his head and said, baby crying. A male staff officer nodded, I think so too. We can repeatedly play the recording of a child crying on the designated battlefield to lure the Guho bird over. The short-haired girl said, to successfully hunt, one more condition must be met. The ballpoint pen in her hand stopped and stabbed heavily on the table. The Guho bird's ability to fly must be paralyzed. The girl's eyes swept over the faces of Luo Yan, Zheng Shan, and Li Boheng in turn. After all, we don't have mechas capable of air combat. Luo Yan said in a deep voice. When the Guho bird appeared, Li Boheng and Zheng Shan used the black rope to control it. Then I cut off its wings. Speaking of wings, a staff officer raised his hand and said, Mecha Masters, you have to be careful. The Guho bird has hidden wings. It can freely mobilize the feathers on its body and combine hidden wings at any time. Although the hidden wings cannot fly long distances, it is still possible to leave the battlefield. One detail after another magnified the research. One problem after another was solved. In the evening, combat plan against Guho bird completed. The time for the battle was set at 10 o'clock in the evening. It is still early to set off. Luo Yan took out a battlefield food. After opening the package, he found that the contents were quite rich. This battlefield food. It is 565 grams of staple bread with 455 grams of canned meat, 230 grams of dehydrated vegetables, and 140 milliliters of milk. Of course, not everyone's battlefield food is so rich. This is the dry food specially supplied to the mecha division. Luo Yan first took a sip of milk, then took a bite of the bread with a strong wheat aroma, but a dry texture. He ate another bite of dehydrated vegetables mixed with seasonings. At this time, a figure swayed in the corner of his eye. Zheng Shan sat down. He glanced at Luo Yan and said, Old Luo, you are still calm. I'm so nervous that I can't eat. Luo Yan ate a canned meat slowly. Fill your stomach, so you have the strength to fight. Zheng Shan smiled, but the smile was a little forced. He looked at his hands and said, I understand the truth. But this is my first time driving a mecha to fight. I'm afraid of holding you, and Bo hang back. I'm not like you. You all got the right to drive a mecha, based on your strength. I'm just luckier. It just so happens that the group I participated in is not very good at fighting. I'm the tallest among the short ones. Chapter 69 Pressure. Zheng Shan said a lot of things. Luo Yan didn't respond. He finished his food quietly. He stood up. Zheng Shan was stunned. Then he realized that he had complained too much. He had no obligation to listen to his complaints. He was very respectful that he didn't leave on the spot. At that moment, Zheng Shan lowered his head in shame. He thought about how Luo Yan had come all the way, killing giant beasts and seizing mechs. Not long ago, he almost lost his life in the duel with Wu Tijun. Did he say hard work? He just had a lot of pressure and had to complain to someone. Compared with Luo Yan, he was really too bad. Now, Luo Yan should look down on him, right? He still had the nerve to say that he wanted to make friends with him. At this moment, Zheng Shan heard a slightly hoarse voice. Eat. Huh. Zheng Shan raised his head. He saw Luo Yan walking towards the rest area and said, I eat when I'm stressed. Eat when you're stressed. Does Luo Yan also feel stressed? Suddenly, Zheng Shan felt a lot more relaxed. Even a killing god like Luo Yan feels stressed. It's normal for him to feel stressed. Thank you, Lao Luo. Zheng Shan shouted, then took out his battlefield food and devoured it. Luo Yan got into his tent. He took out a bottle of spark agent and started practicing. The 4th level of viewing mountains and seas refines bones. There are 206 bones in the human body. Each of these bones needs to be refined before the 4th level is completed. With the help of the spark agent, when Luo Yan runs viewing mountains and seas, the Yuan force in the air roars and pours into his body. There was a bang in Luo Yan's body, and a ball of invisible flames rose. Refining the Yuan force that enters the body makes them more pure. The purified Yuan force, used to refine the body, will naturally have a better effect. Just like now, a wisp of Yuan Li, after being purified by the invisible fire, turned into a pure and flawless bright yellow light. It was continuously injected into a bone on Luo Yan's arm. The human arm is composed of 30 bones, and Luo Yan is now tempering one of the humerus. After the pure Yuan Li was injected into the humerus, it quickly moved between the bones, and then dispersed into every cell. After tempering for nearly 2 hours, Luo Yan's humerus showed the texture of mountain rocks, exuding a solid and heavy meaning. After starting the 4th level of cultivation, as each bone was tempered, Luo Yan's weight increased slightly. That was because after tempering, Luo Yan's bone structure changed. They became harder and heavier. This made Luo Yan's body become stronger little by little. Cultivating a body of heavy bones is the mark of the 4th level of viewing mountains and seas. After tempering the humerus, Luo Yan did not continue to practice. The time to set off is approaching. 9 o'clock in the evening. 3 mecha carriers left the high-speed railway station, passed the anti-monster minefield whose sensors had been turned off in advance, and drove into the city. The night in the forbidden area was so dark. In order to prevent being detected by the monsters, the carriers did not even turn on the lights. Sitting in the carrier, Luo Yan looked out the window. The city was like a monster lying dormant in the earth in the dark. In this silent night, the roar of the monsters could be heard from a distance from time to time, echoing in the forbidden area and between the buildings. Tonight, the moon is dark, the stars are low, and the wind is high. It is suitable for killing. Confirm again. The voice of the tactical staff sounded on the communicator in his ear. It diluted the murderous intent brewing in Luo Yan's eyes. The combat site is the urban gymnasium not far from the high-speed railway station. After everyone arrives, play the baby cry recording we have set up. The above is the first phase of the operation. The tactical staff repeated the previously discussed combat plan again. Luo Yan was in his mind. I also recalled the information about the Guho bird. Codename, Guho bird. Level, intermediate level 1. Type, feathered insect. Features, sonic boom, steel claws, feather blade, chaos god. The weakness is in the abdomen. Luo Yan said softly, the weakness is in the abdomen at this time. The battlefield has arrived. 3 carriers parked near several entrances of the gymnasium, and the carriages unfolded to let the mecha out from inside. Luo Yan sat in the cab, fastened himself to the seat with a seat belt, and then started the auxiliary system, allowing the neuron to plug in the line to connect to the drive. Activate the command console and start the sound sensing system. With Luo Yan's operation, the various functions of the mecha were activated in turn. Finally, with the help of the empathy system, the mecha was connected to the nerve. After the synchronization rate reached 100%, Luo Yan's body shook slightly, and he had completed empathy with the white dragon. A thought came to his mind. The engine on the chest of the white dragon glowed with a faint blue light, and the mecha got out of the carriage and stood up straight. In the cab, through the panoramic window, Luo Yang had a panoramic view of the gymnasium. The gymnasium had been damaged, and the building collapsed severely, but fortunately the track and field was basically not damaged. Luo Yan looked at the other two mechs. Li Bohan was driving the Mecha Ranger, which was camouflaged and extremely concealed. The Ranger had a peculiar shape. Although it was a humanoid mecha, it had 3 arms. When Luo Yan first saw this mecha, he was curious about what it was like when Li Bohan was controlling it. The weapons of the Ranger were mainly guns, a Shenwei rifle, a sniper rifle Langan that could condense Yuanli into bullets and fire them, 3 other tactical daggers. Then, Luo Yan saw a heavy mecha with thick armor and high explosive grenades embedded on both sides of its chest. Behind the mecha, there was a huge shield, and on that shield, there was a Buddhist swastika seal with scratches everywhere. This was Zheng Shan's mecha, King Kong. In addition to the large shield on the back, the King Kong also has an extremely heavy demon subduing rod. This is an old mecha. It is an old model that was eliminated by the Surface Exploration Corps. However, it also has a glorious record of killing giant beasts with a rod and covering teammates on the battlefield many times. 3 mechas were in place. Luo Yan and others followed the previous plan and ambushed in the shadow of the building outside the gymnasium. Then, the cry of a baby began to sound in the gymnasium. Wah wah wah. The cry was not loud, but in this quiet night, it could be heard far away. So, in a building 3 kilometers away from the gymnasium, 2 blood-red flames suddenly rose and burned in the darkness. Then a rustling sound was heard in the building. A moment later, a huge shadow emerged from the side of the building, where the outer wall had almost completely fallen off. It stretched out 2 pairs of exaggerated wings behind it and fanned out a strong wind while flapping, blowing the black hair outside the building up and down like seaweed. Whoosh! The black shadow flew into the night sky at once. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.